Chapter 10:15. Rumble. Ling Daozi's foot finally landed, and it was as if a huge mountain had smashed down. The air was filled with the sound of an explosion, and cries of alarm came from all around. Dongfang Qing and Shaoli were so scared that their faces turned pale. Crack! The explosion was mixed with a crisp sound, and layers of hard ice condensed in the huge pit. Ling Daozi had just arrived, so he hadn't seen the battle between Qin Fun and Ling Fei. Staring at the ice under his feet, Ling Daozi's eyes shone brightly. He hadn't expected Qin Fun to be a dual-attribute demonic cultivator. Brat, you're quite capable. Unfortunately, you've met me. Today I'll cripple your cultivation. Ling Daozi's expression became serious, and he felt a sense of crisis. Qin Fun's strength had exceeded Ling Daozi's expectations. Today he had to cripple Qin Fun. Otherwise, if he left such a hidden danger in the martial arts circle, he might bring harm to the Starlight sect in the future. Rumble. Ling Daozi lifted his foot again, and this time, it was even more violent. The entire ground shook slightly, and the cracks on the ground spread in all directions, reaching the feet of the warriors standing hundreds of meters away. Bang! With one foot, the hard ice instantly cracked, and Qin Fun, who was hiding underneath, was revealed. A sneer flashed in Ling Daozi's eyes, and he hurriedly stomped down again. Just as he was about to stomp Qin Fun flat, a ray of purple light fell from the sky and directly struck Ling Daozi's body. Crackle! The purple lightning came too abruptly. After Ling Daozi was struck, he suddenly stopped moving. The black robe on his body was instantly torn apart, and black smoke rose from his body. His hair was also blown up by the electricity. He looked extremely wretched. Roar! You bastard, today I'll use your blood to show the dignity of the Starlight sect. Ling Daozi's foot still landed, but Qin Fun was no longer in the deep pit. The huge pit was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Ling Daozi's figure leaped and instantly arrived in midair. He attacked Qin Fun, who was in the sky, with his sword. Buzz! The sword chi was sharp, and its speed was several times faster than Ling Fei's. Behind Ling Daozi, 5 stars appeared. He had already cultivated the star's sword technique to the 5th level. The profound meaning and majesty of the sword chi were several times stronger. It was as if the entire place was enveloped by sword chi, and everything was under Ling Daozi's control. Xiao 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 xiao. As soon as Qin Feng's figure emerged from the deep pit, he quickly struck out with both hands. Streaks of white light flickered and disappeared, colliding with the surging sword chi. Qin Feng's spear of rat halos didn't stop at all. He swung out dozens of fireballs in front of him, devouring most of the boundless sword chi. Humph! It's just an insignificant skill. What a joke! Ling Daozi quickly saw through the wind blade martial arts technique. The wind blades were strong enough to cut through Ling Fei's skin, but they couldn't penetrate the inner chi barrier around Ling Daozi, who was at the peak of stage 9 inner chi. The flames of destruction also lost their power, because Ling Daozi's reaction speed was extraordinarily fast. After he realized the power of the flames of destruction, Ling Daozi didn't even touch the flames. With a few nimble leaps, he dodged the fireballs. His figure instantly appeared in front of Qin Fun. You can be proud of yourself for being able to last so long in my hands. As soon as Ling Daozi finished speaking, he raised the sword in his hand. It was as if he was ending Qin Fun. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in all directions. The purple thunder wild robe on Qin Fun's body whistled, and the purple electric current in the battle armor began to thicken and brighten. It was as if there was lightning inside the battle armor. This scene stunned Ling Daozi. Bang! A muffled thunder rose from the ground, and a ring-shaped ball of purple lightning fell from the sky. The speed of the lightning was unexpectedly fast, and it accurately struck Ling Daozi's body. Ling Daozi didn't even have time to react, and he was directly smashed to the ground by the purple lightning. Rumble! When he landed, he sank into a deep pit. Without hesitation, Qin Fun hurriedly slapped down several fireballs of flames of destruction. The fireballs instantly smashed into the deep pit. The bottom of the huge pit couldn't be seen, and it was dazzled by the flames. No one knew Ling Daozi's current situation, and they all had shocked expressions on their faces. Bang 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 bang. A loud sound came from the deep pit, and a few sword lights shot out from the dazzling light. Just as Qin Fen's figure was about to land on the edge of the deep pit, he quickly dodged. Ah! You bastard, you'll die a horrible death. I'll fight you to the death today. A black shadow suddenly soared into the sky. Unexpectedly, it was Ling Daozi who had shot out from the huge pit. Ling Daozi actually didn't die under the bombardment of the purple lightning and the burning of the flames of destruction. This was beyond Qin Fen's expectations. It seemed that a stage 9 inner chi expert was indeed not that easy to deal with. Cries of alarm rang out from the surroundings. This battle had long surpassed everyone's scope of acceptance. Both Qin Fen and Ling Daozi were absolutely valiant. Their moves were ever-changing, and they had endless tricks up their sleeves. They were like cockroaches that couldn't be killed, and they surprised everyone again and again. However, Ling Daozi, who was in midair, was in an extremely sorry state. After being struck by 2 bolts of purple lightning in a row, the black robe on Ling Daozi's body was completely charred, and the exposed skin was pitch black. It was as if he had just run out of a bonfire. However, Ling Daozi's eyes were bright and bloodshot. He landed in midair and looked down at Qin Fen, who was on the ground. The way he gnashed his teeth was like a dreadful beast. Buzz! Ling Daozi put his palms together, and a long sword flickering with blue light flew out from his back. Cries of alarm immediately rang out from the surroundings. This was actually a blue-grade spiritual sword. Stellar sword art 5 stars burst. Ling Daozi muttered a strange incantation, and the treasured sword behind him suddenly split into 4 shadows. As Ling Daozi's large hands slapped out, the 4 sword shadows flew towards Qin Fen as if they were real. Bang bang bang. Layers of deep blue ice appeared in midair. These incomparably hard ice layers couldn't withstand a single blow, and they instantly shattered under the impact of the 4 sword lights. Just as Qin Fen was about to condense a new layer of ice to fill in the gaps, a black shadow flew towards him. It held a long and narrow treasured sword in its hand, and it pointed straight at Qin Fen's chest. Rumble! Ling Daozi's speed was too fast, and Qin Fen was directly hit. A majestic and boundless aura came from his chest, and it instantly sent Qin Fen flying. In midair, Qin Fen spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. This scene scared Dongfang Qingxue and the others, and they involuntarily screamed. The martial artists who were watching from the outside were dumbstruck. They thought that Qin Fen would die without a doubt after this strike. Ling Daozi had already landed, but he was stunned. That strike just now was his sure kill technique, and it condensed the essence of the first 5 sword forms of the stellar sword art. He originally thought that he would be able to pierce through Qin Fen's heart, but when the tip of the sword fell on Qin Fen's chest, no matter how much strength Ling Daozi exerted, he couldn't penetrate Qin Fen's body. Ling Daozi looked at the blue-grade treasured sword in his hand, and then looked at the purple battle robe on Qin Fen's body. A shocking thought welled up in his mind. Could that be a purple battle armor? Rumble! Qin Fen had already landed, and another deep pit appeared. Ling Daozi was wild with joy. He was sure that Qin Fen was wearing a purple battle armor, and only a purple-grade spiritual energy could block the attack of a blue-grade treasured sword. Even the Stellar Sect, one of the 5 overlords of the hidden sects, had only a handful of people who possessed a purple-grade spirit weapon. Aside from the sect leader and a few vice-sect leaders, even Ling Daozi, the martial arts alliance master, couldn't get his hands on a purple-grade spirit weapon. Haha, with your battle armor, your father's strength will rise to another level. Ling Daozi seemed to have discovered a treasure in the desert. He leaped and instantly arrived at the edge of the deep pit. Just as he looked down and wanted to snatch Qin Fen's purple thunder wild robe, a loud noise came from behind him. That terrifying purple lightning appeared out of thin air again. Bang! Ling Daozi had no room to dodge, and he was instantly struck by the purple lightning. Purple light blossomed from the deep pit, and a figure flew out and hovered in midair. Although that sword didn't pierce through Qin Fen, it still caused serious damage to him. The blood in Qin Fen's body churned, and it was extremely difficult for him to circulate his qi. He was completely forcing his body to activate the thunder and lightning ability of the purple thunder wild robe. Rumble! Crackle! In a fit of rage, Qin Fan activated 3 bolts of purple lightning in a row. The lightning condensed, and it looked like a large net that covered the sky. In the sky where Qin Fan and Ling Daozi were, the weather changed dramatically. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. That majestic scene shocked everyone so much that they forgot to breathe. The lightning was unceasing, and almost all of it struck Ling Daozi's body. Ling Daozi was struck down from midair and smashed into the huge pit from the ground. However, the purple lightning didn't stop. It continuously fell into the deep pit, and the thunderous roar that sounded like a devil's roar reverberated in the deep pit. Just listening to it was terrifying enough. Pooh! After an unknown number of strikes, Qin Fan couldn't hold on any longer. His body fell from midair, and he began to vomit blood as soon as he landed on the ground. The crowd still hadn't regained their senses, but Dongfang Qingxue and Xiaoli had already run to Qin Fan's side. Looking at the bloodstains on the ground, the 2 women felt a stabbing pain in their hearts. Qin Fan, are you alright? Master, wake up. Don't scare Xiaoli. Dongfang Qingxue's usually cold and arrogant expression revealed a rare look of worry. Xiaoli threw herself into Qin Fan's arms and cried like a child. Dongfang Qingxue didn't fight with Xiaoli for Qin Fan's affections. She furrowed her brows and hurriedly took out a few qi deposition pills and blood circulation pills that her grandfather had given her, and stuffed them into Qin Fan's mouth. Bang bang bang. The huge pit that Ling Daozi fell into was still emitting explosive sounds. Even now, Ling Daozi still hadn't come out. Ling Fei and the others finally regained their senses. They hurriedly ran to the edge of the deep pit and looked down. Time seemed to have stopped. The major sects of the outer martial arts world stood foolishly on the spot and didn't dare to move. Qin Fan was still lying in Xiaoli's arms and hadn't woken up. Ling Fei watched for a while, burning with anxiety. He had already jumped into the deep pit to save Ling Daozi. Senior apprentice brother, are you alright? Senior apprentice brother. Ling Fei's voice rang out. He actually carried Ling Daozi's body and jumped back to the ground. Ling Daozi's entire body was scorched black, as if he had just been fished out of a crematorium. Chapter 10:16. This battle could be considered a lose-lose situation. The outcome was beyond everyone's expectations. Ling Daozi had initially thought that Qin Fan would be crippled on the spot, or even killed by Ling Daozi. Little did he expect that Qin Fan would have the upper hand in the end. Comparing the extent of their injuries, it was obvious that Ling Daozi's injuries were more severe. After Qin Fan woke up, he saw Xiaoli and Dongfang Qingxue with worried expressions. Without thinking, he forced himself up and whispered in Xiaoli's ear. Quick, take me to a place with no one around to recuperate. Ling Daozi's strength exceeded Qin Fang's expectations. After such a fierce battle, Qin Feng was certain that Ling Daozi was even stronger than Purple Dragon Su Xiaotian. At that time, Qin Feng used all his skills, activated the Demon Beast Blood Essence in the Blood Demon Armor, and ate the Violent Demon Pill to enter a berserk state to defeat Su Xiaotian. This time, he only used the Purple Thunder Wild Robe and his own strength to fight Ling Daozi to a draw. Speaking of which, Qin Feng's strength had increased by a lot. Qin Feng was still worried about Su Ruoro. He really wanted to take Su Ruoro away, but the situation had changed. Qin Feng couldn't even protect himself now. He could only find a place to recover his strength first. It wouldn't be too late to find Su Ruoro later. At least Qin Feng knew that Su Ruoro was now a disciple of Serenity. Swish. As soon as Qin Feng finished speaking, Xiaoli immediately picked him up and ran. A chilly wind blew in the surroundings, and the temperature seemed to have dropped to freezing point. Dongfang Qingxue was stunned for a moment before she realized that Qin Feng and Xiaoli had disappeared. Sister-in-law, don't chase after them. They're already far away. Come back to the hotel with me. Zhang Biao suddenly came to Dongfang Qingxue's side and stopped her from chasing after them. Dongfang Qingxue glanced at Qin Feng, who disappeared into the distance. She could only lower her head and agreed to Zhang Biao's suggestion. Ling Fei had already left with Ling Daozi. Ling Daozi was still unconscious, and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. Su Ruoro and Hua Xianyu left with Ling Fei. When the two women left, They both turned to look in the direction that Qin Feng disappeared. Hua Xianyu's heart was filled with complicated emotions. Su Ruoro also had many doubts. Her heart suddenly tightened. Pikachu was taken away by Qin Feng. The main characters of the day had all left, and only the outer martial artists who were watching the show were left in disarray. The martial arts circle convention had yet to officially begin, but because of today's battle, everyone's confidence had been completely crushed. Especially with the appearance of Ling Fei and Qin Feng, these outer hidden sect disciples had lost their last hope of becoming the alliance leader of the martial arts circle. Ling Fei was only at the early stage of Stage 9 Inner Qi, but he possessed the strength of a mid-stage Stage 9 Inner Qi expert. Qin Feng even fought Ling Daozi, who was at the peak of Stage 9 Inner Qi, to a draw. Everyone had their own judgment. It seemed like the title of the martial arts alliance leader had to be Qin Feng. Just who is that young hero? After Qin Feng and Ling Daozi left, the scene slowly exploded. Everyone finally had the guts to discuss Qin Feng's identity. I think that young hero looks very familiar, but I just can't remember who he is. Previously, everyone had scoffed at Qin Feng, but now, they respectfully addressed him as young hero. Everyone from the Flame Gate and Carefree sect was still shaken. They all knew Qin Feng's identity, but none of them dared to say anything. Ah, I remember now. That young hero is Qin Feng. Qin Feng, the Green Dragon of China. A cry of surprise came from the crowd. Finally, someone remembered. The scene suddenly fell silent for more than 10 seconds. Then, it was like a surging tide of discussion. Holy shit, he is Qin Feng? Rumor has it that he has another identity. He is the mysterious senior green wolf of the outer martial arts circle? That's right, it's him. The two martial arts disturbances in the outer martial arts circle were caused by young hero Qin Feng. At that time, he appeared as Green Wolf. I even witnessed the martial arts disturbances with the Great Elder. Senior Green Wolf defeated many martial arts sects by himself. Tsk. Interesting. This martial arts circle convention is really interesting. Previously, people didn't think Qin Feng would win because he had no identity. No matter how powerful he was just an insignificant character in the face of a hidden sect like the Starlight sect. But now, Qin Feng's background had been dug out. This was the Green Dragon of China. Some people also said that Qin Feng had established the Hero Alliance. Not long ago, outside of Devil Beast Mountain, a true Qi stage expert and several Stage 9 Inner Qi experts appeared in Hero City. They directly killed the famous sect leader of the herbal faction, Bai Yufei. When all these rumors piled up, Qin Feng's strength completely shocked everyone. In the eyes of the outer hidden sects, Qin Feng had become a godlike existence that couldn't be provoked. Zhang Tiandao of the Wu-Tang sect was so scared that his heart was in a mess. He already regretted offending Qin Feng. Master, how are you? Why don't I take you out of Devil City and go to the hospital? Shaoli ran all the way and brought Qin Feng to the depths of Devil City. Not long ago, Qin Feng killed the Ghostface Evil King in this area. After that, there was a big fire that burned the houses here. Qin Feng and Shaoli were hiding in one of the houses. There's no need to leave. We cultivators have to take care of our own injuries. What's the point of going to the hospital? Qin Feng had been adjusting his breath on the way here. Now he could barely speak and move. However, Shaoli was still worried to death. He sat on the ground and hugged Qin Feng. Qin Feng had used up all of his energy in the battle just then, and he just wanted to sleep. With a thought, he released Ouyang Feng and had him stand guard 100 meters away. Shaoli, I'm going to sleep. Help me look after me. Qin Feng swallowed a qi-strengthening pill and collapsed. Shaoli quickly hugged Qin Feng and let him lie on his lap. Then he stared at Qin Feng's handsome and resolute face. He was lost in thought. This battle completely made Qin Feng famous. The topic of discussion in Devil City revolved around Qin Feng. The major sects of the outer martial arts circle originally came to fight for the position of the martial arts circle master. However, after watching today's battle, they had already lost confidence in the martial arts circle master. Instead, they looked forward to Qin Feng sweeping away thousands of enemies and becoming the new martial arts circle master. It had been hundreds of years since the martial arts circle convention started. However, every time the martial arts circle master was replaced by the inner hidden 5 hegemons, this caused the strength of the outer hidden sects to become weaker and weaker, while the number of experts of the inner hidden sects increased. If Qin Feng could break this rule and lead the outer hidden sects to seize the position of the martial arts circle master, then he would focus on developing the outer hidden sects. Perhaps this situation would be broken again. Qin Feng didn't know that this battle had brought so many changes. He was lying in Xiao Li's arms and sleeping soundly. At this time, Ling Daozi was also lying in a room of the Sichuan restaurant. Ling Fei sat beside Ling Daozi and continuously circulated his qi to help Ling Daozi recover. Cough cough. Ling Daozi suddenly woke up with a start. As soon as he woke up, he vomited a large mouthful of black blood. This mouthful of black blood happened to spit on Ling Fei's chest. The stench made Ling Fei almost vomit. However, facing Ling Daozi, Ling Fei didn't dare to show this kind of disgust. He hurriedly supported Ling Daozi. "Senior brother, you're awake." Ling Daozi's deep eyes looked around. After he clearly saw his surroundings, he knew that he had been rescued. When he thought about how he had been beaten up by Qin Feng not long ago, a sinister cold light flashed in Ling Daozi's eyes. "Where's that brat? Is he dead?" Ling Daozi asked in a low voice. "Eldest senior brother, that bastard didn't die. He was taken away by his subordinates." Ling Daozi spat a mouthful of blood on the ground and said through gritted teeth, "That brat really got off lightly. Why didn't you kill him with your sword? He was already seriously injured by me. He didn't even have the strength to fight back." At that time, Qin Feng was indeed seriously injured. Not to mention Ling Fei, even if rookies like Chun Hai and Huo Xiong attacked, Qin Feng wouldn't be able to block them. However, that battle was too intense. No one thought about these things. They were too afraid of Qin Feng. They didn't even dare to think about taking the opportunity to kill Qin Feng. Ling Fei only remembered this after he returned. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. "Eldest senior brother, you were unconscious at that time. I was afraid that the brat had accomplices. I only wanted to help eldest senior brother settle down first, but I forgot to chase after that bastard." Ling Daozi nodded. It was a good thing that Qin Feng didn't die, because Ling Daozi was completely enraged. He wanted to kill Qin Feng with his own hands. "I really didn't expect that brat at the early stage of stage 9 inner qi to be able to fight against me. What's his background?" Although Ling Daozi hated Qin Feng to the core, he also clearly saw Qin Feng's strength after this battle. He no longer looked down on Qin Feng like before. Regarding Qin Feng's identity, it had already spread like wildfire in the Sichuan restaurant. Ling Fei revealed a troubled expression and said, "Eldest senior brother, that guy is actually China's Azure Dragon Qin Feng." A glint flashed in Ling Daozi's eyes, but it quickly dissipated. He snorted coldly and said, "TSK, China's 9 dragons are nothing. I just don't care about that title. Otherwise, even if it was a one-on-one duel, I wouldn't lose to any of the 9 dragons." Although he said this, Ling Daozi was still somewhat shocked. Although he wasn't afraid of China's 9 dragons, he was shocked by Qin Feng's age. Qin Feng was only in his early 20s, but he had actually become China's Azure Dragon. His strength was also comparable to the peak of stage 9 inner qi. Even when Ling Daozi was young, he couldn't reach Qin Feng's current level. Eldest senior brother, he has another identity. He's the great hero Green Wolf that has been spreading like wildfire in the outer martial arts world. Great hero Green Wolf? So it's this brat. Ling Daozi suddenly sat up straight. This news shocked him even more than China's Azure Dragon. This was because most of the people in the secular world worshipped the Azure Dragon. But the people in the outer martial arts world worshipped the Azure Wolf even more. This was because the areas of activity of these two identities were different. There was always some distance between the secular world and the outer martial arts world. Ling Daozi suddenly fell silent and only spoke after a long while. "Quickly report to the sect and ask the great elders to come out." Ling Fei was stunned. He didn't expect that Ling Daozi would ask the great elders to come out. Originally, this year's martial arts circle convention was hosted by Ling Daozi. He was an expert at the peak of Stage 9 inner chi. In the outer martial arts world, he was considered a powerhouse. Moreover, the participants of the martial arts circle convention were limited to below the age of 35. Chapter 10:17. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Qin Feng and Shaoli stayed in the abandoned villa to recuperate. Qin Feng's name spread throughout the martial arts world in these 3 days. After that battle, Qin Feng and Ling Daozi did not show up again. The martial arts disciples in Devil City were guessing their whereabouts. Seeing that the martial arts circle convention was approaching, everyone's heart was filled with anticipation and impatience. Shaoli continued to practice. I'm going out for a while. After 3 days of recuperation, Qin Feng's injuries were mostly healed. This was all thanks to the miraculous elixirs he had on him. Shaoli quickly stopped practicing and stood up. Master, your injuries are not healed yet. Where are you going? Shaoli will accompany you. Shaoli's cold and elegant face was filled with worry. She had taken good care of Qin Feng for the past 3 days. Qin Feng's feelings for Shaoli had deepened. Qin Feng patted Shaoli's shoulder and smiled. Don't worry. I'll be back in a while. Stay here and wait for me. Don't go anywhere. Although she was still worried, Shaoli did not dare to disobey Qin Feng. She threw herself into Qin Feng's arms and hugged him. Shaoli shyly retreated to the side. Be careful, master. Shaoli will wait here for master's return. Qin Feng looked at Shaoli's reluctant expression. He nodded and disappeared into the night. According to Zhang Biao, tonight was the first day of the martial arts circle convention. The reason why Qin Feng came out with his injuries was to attend the convention. After the battle with Ling Daozi 3 days ago, Qin Feng realized that his strength was still too weak in the martial arts world. Especially in the eyes of the hidden sects, Qin Feng was nothing. Seeing that the martial arts circle convention was approaching, and the battle between Qin Feng and the Divine Dragon King was nearing, Qin Feng had to go to the convention to see if he could find a Saint Soul Stone. If he could forge a cosmic flying sword, Qin Feng's strength would skyrocket. Although the sky had already turned completely dark, the restaurant in Sichuan was still brightly lit. Tonight's treasure inspection conference would be held in this restaurant. All the martial artists who stayed in the restaurant and the unfinished houses outside had come. This kind of treasure inspection conference, which was held once every 5 years, was very attractive. Many powerful treasures would appear in the conference. Qin Feng was already standing in front of the Chuanzhong restaurant. At this time, there were 2 long lines at the entrance. The Chuanzhong restaurant was surging with people. Just looking at the array was enough to shock people. Hey, don't cut the queue. Qin Feng followed the rules and started to line up. After a short while, a tall and strong man suddenly squeezed in front of him. The brawny man glanced at Qin Feng, as if he didn't see him. He waved to the side and said, "Brothers, come here. There are seats here." All of a sudden, another 5 strong men appeared. 6 of them stood in front of Qin Feng. The people standing behind Qin Feng were unhappy when they saw this scene. However, judging from the rough cowhide clothes of the 6 strong men, they were obviously from the Ox Village in the outer martial arts world. The Ox Village was considered a medium-sized sect in the outer martial arts world. No one wanted to cause trouble with the Ox Village over such a small matter. The others didn't dare to stand up and say anything. But Qin Feng wouldn't let the people of the Ox Village get away with it. After Qin Feng came out tonight, he had already restored his appearance as Zheng Shuai. However, this appearance was also a layer of vital qi that Divine Dragon had placed on Qin Feng's face. Now that Qin Feng's injuries had not healed, it was not good for him to participate in the treasure inspection convention with Qin Feng's appearance. If the people from the Starlight sect called for help, it would be really difficult for Qin Feng to deal with them. I'll say it for the last time. Get to the back and line up. Qin Feng said in a deep voice. The 6 people from the Ox Village looked at Qin Feng. The brawny man who took the lead to cut the queue had a cold expression. He snarled at Qin Feng with his porcelain teeth. You ugly monster. So what if I want to stand in front of you? If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll blow your head off with one punch. Qin Feng had changed his appearance, so the people from the Ox village didn't recognize him at all. If they knew that the man in front of them was actually Qin Feng, who had recently gone viral, the people from the Ox village would definitely be scared out of their wits. Slap! Qin Feng suddenly raised his hand and slapped. His speed was as fast as lightning. Before the leader of the Ox village could react, he had already flown more than 10 meters away and was lying on the street. The remaining 5 people were stunned. They looked at the Black Bull brother, who had fainted from the fall, and then looked at the ugly man beside him. In the end, they all ran away in fear. With Qin Feng's move, the other sects who wanted to cut the queue all gave up on this idea. The queue quickly calmed down. Compared to tonight's treasure inspection convention, Qin Feng's act of slapping the Black Bull village wasn't attractive at all. Please show me your sex token. After waiting for nearly half an hour, it was finally Qin Feng's turn. Just when Qin Feng was about to enter, he was stopped by the 4 guards at the door. What token? Qin Feng asked doubtfully. The 2 guards standing in front of him looked at Qin Feng with disdain. One of them complained, "Brat, is this your first time participating in the martial arts circle convention? If you want to enter the treasure inspection convention, you have to show your sex token." There are countless treasures on display at tonight's treasure inspection convention. If you lose something, it'll be easy to find out who's responsible later. After the guard explained, Qin Feng understood in his heart. However, Qin Feng didn't have a sex token. The Heroes Alliance he established wasn't registered in the outer martial arts circle. So even though the Heroes Alliance was famous, it wasn't actually an official sect in the outer martial arts circle. Hey, brat, are you from the outer martial arts circle or not? If you haven't joined a sect, don't waste time here. Hurry up and leave. Qin Feng was thinking of a way to enter the treasure inspection convention when the man behind him shouted impatiently. Qin Feng turned around and looked at the man. From the way he was dressed, he could tell that he was a disciple of the Wudong sect. The man was holding a sect token in his hand. The token was circular, and there were all kinds of sword patterns engraved on it. In the center of the token there were 2 words, Wudong. Oh, it's indeed my first time here. So you need a sect token? Of course I have one. After Qin Feng saw the Wudong token in the man's hand, he immediately spent 100 hedonist points to buy a replica from the system. He took out the token and showed it to the guard. The guard waved his hand and said, "All right, you may go in." Qin Feng smoothly entered the Sichuan restaurant. At this time, the hall on the first floor was filled with martial artists from all walks of life. They formed a few small circles, exchanging cultivation experiences and the matters of tonight's treasure inspection convention. Qin Feng scanned the crowd and quickly saw Dongfang Qing Shui and Zhang Biao. The people from the 2 sects were also gathered together. Hua Xiong of the 10,000 Mountains and Qin Yuan of the Azure Moon Observatory were exchanging information. Qin Feng looked around a few more times, but he still didn't see Su Ruoro in the crowd. He sighed slightly and walked towards Dongfang Qing Shui. "Ah, why you're the superstar Zheng Shui?" Dongfang Qing Shui exclaimed as soon as Qin Feng walked over. Qin Feng was speechless. He didn't think that his reputation as Zheng Shui had spread to Dongfang Qing Shui's ears. The martial artists around Dongfang Qing Shui glanced at them. They thought something had happened, but when they heard that Qin Feng was a superstar, they lost interest and turned back to talk about their own topics. In the secular world, Zheng Shui's fame spread far and wide. However, no one in the outer martial world chased after celebrities. Everyone was focused on how to break through and become stronger as soon as possible. Who had the time to chase after celebrities and dramas like those teenagers? In the entire hall, perhaps only Dongfang Qing Shui knew Zheng Shui. After all, Dongfang Qing Shui usually lived in the provincial capital. Ahem. Beautiful lady you are. Qin Feng pretended to see Dongfang Qing Shui for the first time. Dongfang Qing Shui also realized that she was too emotional. This was the outer martial world, not the metropolis. Hee, I'm just a little fan of yours. Don't mind me. All right, I still have something to do. Help yourself. Dongfang Qing Shui was also surprised to see Zheng Shui in this kind of situation. But after she regained her composure, she became as cold as usual. Dongfang Qingxue still hadn't heard anything about Qin Feng. How could she be in the mood to talk to other men? Beautiful lady, since you're my fan, let's have a drink and have a chat. Qin Feng took the initiative to pester Dongfang Qingxue. Before Dongfang Qingxue could refuse, a tall and sturdy figure suddenly crossed over and glared at Qin Feng fiercely. Stinking brat, I don't care who you are, but don't pester my sister-in-law. Get lost. The person who came was Zhang Biao. Qin Feng was intoxicated when he saw Zhang Biao threatening him. Hee. Brother, I don't mean anything else. It's just that I don't know much about tonight's treasure inspection convention. It just so happens that this lady knows me, so I wanted to ask her about it. Qin Feng smiled. That's all? Then you can ask me. Zhang Biao's expression was still cold. He obviously didn't believe Qin Feng's excuse. Ever since Qin Feng disappeared 3 days ago, Zhang Biao had been in charge of protecting Dongfang Qingxue. Due to Dongfang Qingxue's outstanding beauty, Zhang Biao had chased away who knew how many people with ill intentions. Now he felt that every man was a bad guy. Therefore, he was very vigilant towards Qin Feng. Qin Feng was speechless, but on the surface he smiled and said, That's fine. Then brother, do you know when tonight's treasure inspection convention will start? What's the procedure and format of the treasure inspection convention? It'll officially start in half an hour. Tonight's treasure inspection convention will have 3 segments. The first segment is the free exchange, the second is the exhibition, and the third is the auction. Zhang Biao still felt that Qin Feng was here to flirt with Dongfang Qingxue. Asking questions about the treasure inspection convention was just a cover. You're already here, so how could you not know the procedure in time? In Zhang Biao's eyes, this kind of lying ability was too low level. Are the items in the exhibition segment the treasures that will be auctioned in the third segment? Qin Feng asked. Zhang Biao was slightly astonished. He thought Qin Feng was looking for an excuse to flirt with Dongfang Qingxue. Why did this brat start asking about the details of the treasure inspection convention? Not all of them will be auctioned. Some of the treasures are the most precious treasures of the large sections. They're just used to show off, so they won't be auctioned. There are also some treasures that the disciples of the sects obtained by chance. They're not sure of their value, so they'll be placed in the exhibition. Sanjiang. Chapter 10:18. Qin Feng asked some questions about the details of the treasure inspection convention. After he had a general understanding of the convention, he took a glass of red wine and went to a corner to wait for the convention to begin. Zhang Biao was dumbfounded. He was completely confused by Qin Feng. Did this guy really come to inquire about the treasure appraisal conference? Even Dongfang Qingxue was a bit puzzled. With her looks, she stood out like a crane among chickens. At first, Dongfang Qingxue regretted greeting Zheng Shuai. She was afraid that Zheng Shuai would misunderstand and keep pestering her. In the end, when she saw Zheng Shuai and Zhang Biao chatting for a while, Dongfang Qingxue felt a little neglected. Quite a few people in the crowd secretly peeked at Dongfang Qingxue, making her feel very uncomfortable. After a while, Dongfang Qingxue also took a glass of red wine and sat down at Qin Feng's table. Mr. Zheng Shuai, as a member of China's entertainment industry, why are you here? Dongfang Qingxue was confused. Qin Feng calmly glanced at Dongfang Qingxue. He actually didn't want this woman to find him now because Dongfang Qingxue was too dazzling. This would cause everyone to notice Qin Feng's existence. Now that Qin Feng appeared as Zheng Shuai, he was worried that others would see through him. This beauty, I don't think we know each other very well. Why don't you find someone else to chat with? Qin Feng found out about the treasure inspection convention from Zhang Biao, so he didn't need to ask Dongfang Qingxue anymore. Dongfang Qingxue's wine cup suddenly stopped, and she even forgot to take a sip. Why you want me to leave? Dongfang Qingxue looked at Qin Feng in astonishment. Yeah, I want some peace and quiet. You should find someone else to play with. Qin Feng's expression was calm. Dongfang Qingxue was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. She realized that she seemed to have been bewitched. As long as she took the initiative to hit on a guy, he would ignore her. Qin Feng was like that, and this extremely ugly Zheng Shuai was like that as well. Humph. Superstar Zheng Shuai sure is arrogant. You still don't know who I am? I'm the Dongfang family's precious daughter, Dongfang Qing Shui. Dongfang Qing Shui's spoiled young Miss temper flared up, and she glared at Qin Feng with a tsundere expression. Qin Feng laughed inwardly, since there were still 10 or so minutes until the treasure inspection conference started. He might as well tease this tsundere young miss. Oh, so it turns out that this beauty is the daughter of the Dongfang family. But what does this have to do with me? Are you showing off? How vulgar. The first half of Qin Feng's words made Dongfang Qing Shui feel a bit pleased. She raised her head, puffed out her chest, and displayed a tsundere expression. The second half of Qin Feng's words instantly made her so angry that she almost splashed the glass of red wine in her hand on Qin Feng. You really don't know what's good for you. Dongfang Qing Shui held it in for a long time and didn't know how to refute Qin Feng. Qin Feng smiled calmly. You don't know what's good for you? Then, according to Miss Qing Shui, I should curry favor with you and please you. It would be best if I could get a room at night to satisfy you. This is tactful, right? The waves on Dongfang Qing Shui's chest rose and fell. Qin Feng was worried that they would suddenly explode. Whoosh! A glass of wine splashed over. Qin Feng was prepared and nimbly dodged it. At the same time, he complained in his heart that this Dongfang Qing Shui was too spoiled. This was a place where the elites of the outer world gathered. If Dongfang Qing Shui splashed wine on someone else, who knew what kind of trouble she would cause? Miss Qing Shui, this isn't very good. Qin Feng grabbed Dongfang Qing Shui's white wrist and purposely touched it. Dongfang Qing Shui jumped in fright. She grabbed Qin Feng's glass of wine from the table and was about to splash it again. Qin Feng waved his hand, and the wine glass instantly landed in his hand. Qin Feng grabbed Dongfang Qing Shui with one hand and held the wine glass with the other, carefully tasting the red wine. This scene made Dongfang Qing Shui fuming with anger. Bastard, let go of me. I can let go, but don't pester me anymore. I don't like you. Qin Feng smiled evilly. Why, you're crazy, right? Who's interested in you? You're flattering yourself. Dongfang Qing Shui was about to die from anger. She suddenly felt that Zheng Shui was as shameless as Qin Feng. Qin Feng let go and said with a smile. Then who sat across from me? Who insisted on talking to me? Dongfang Qing Shui immediately choked. What Qin Feng said was the truth. She had no way to quibble. Just you wait. If my fiancé comes back, he'll take care of you. Dongfang Qing Shui suddenly thought of Qin Feng. She knew that if Qin Feng was here, he would definitely stand up for her. You still have a fiancé? Where is he? Don't tell me he's been beaten to death? Dongfang Qing Shui had been worried about Qin Feng for the past 3 days. When she heard Zheng Shui's words, she exploded. She swung her fist and pounced at Qin Feng. Shut up, I'll kill you. Rumble. In any case, Dongfang Qing Shui was a stage for inner qi martial artist. Her elegant fists carried a gust of wind. However, in front of Qin Feng, this move was just a flowery but impractical move. Qin Feng gently pulled Dongfang Qing Shui into his arms. A fragrant softness rippled in his arms. Qin Feng couldn't help but caress it. This scared Dongfang Qing Shui into a daze in Qin Feng's arms, and she didn't dare to move. In the noisy hall, this little bit of movement was nothing. However, Dongfang Qing Shui was the focus of all the men. So many people saw this scene. The hall was in an uproar. Many people tried to strike up a conversation with Dongfang Qing Shui, but they were all coldly reprimanded by Dongfang Qing Shui. Some of them didn't even have the chance to speak to Dongfang Qing Shui before they were stopped by Zhang Biao. However, Dongfang Qing Shui was lying in the arms of an extremely ugly man. Everyone lamented in their hearts. What kind of taste did the beauties nowadays have? Why you dare touch me? I'll annihilate your entire family. Dongfang Qing Shui was at tsundere. She was the precious granddaughter of China's Crimson Dragon, Dongfang Mingwang. Ever since she got engaged to Qin Feng, Dongfang Qing Shui cared a lot about her body. How could she tolerate being hugged by an outsider? This completely crossed Dongfang Qing Shui's bottom line. Qin Feng originally wanted to tease this missy, but he didn't think he would go too far. When he saw Dongfang Qing Shui was ready to fight him to the death, Zhang Biao rushed over with the people from the Thousandfold Sect and the Blue Moon Observatory. Qin Feng quickly blew hot air into Dongfang Qingshue's ear. My Tsundere fiancé, stop messing around. I'm Qin Feng. I've changed my identity to attend the treasure appraisal conference tonight. Don't make trouble for me, or else I'll really die. Dongfang Qingshue's delicate body suddenly stopped. Her clear-as-water eyes stared at Qin Feng. Why you're lying? You have to prove it. Prove my ass. Not long ago, we were arranged by that old geezer to attend the Martial Circle conference together at the Dongfang Garden. He even asked me to protect you. How am I supposed to prove it? Qin Feng angrily glared at Dongfang Qingshue, and even pinched her perky butt. Dongfang Qingshue's face and ears flushed red, but she didn't blame Qin Feng. Because Qin Feng suddenly disappeared 3 days ago, Dongfang Qingshue was extremely worried. Now that she found out Qin Feng didn't die, Dongfang Qingshue's heart was indescribably excited. Why, you're finished. You dared to call Grandpa an old geezer? I'm going to make a phone call and complain. The originally cold and arrogant heiress was now acting like a spoiled little girl in Qin Feng's arms. Her enchanting appearance stunned Qin Feng for a moment. Stinking brat, you dare to hug sister-in-law? I'll kill you. Zhang Biao had already rushed over. His entire body was like a moving mountain, and he swung his fist towards Qin Feng's head. Dongfang Qingshue was so scared that her beautiful face paled. However, in the next second, she saw Qin Feng raise his hand and grab Zhang Biao's wrist. Zhang Biao's iron fist seemed to be caught in a vice and couldn't move forward at all. Damn black bear. What are you doing? Who told you to attack? Dongfang Qingshue angrily glared at Zhang Biao. Zhang Biao stared blankly, dumbfounded by the scolding. Sister-in-law, that bastard hugged you. After Zhang Biao regained his senses, he said to Dongfang Qingshue. At this time, Qin Feng still had one arm around Dongfang Qingshue. Dongfang Qingshue didn't struggle or resist. Instead, she stared at Zhang Biao with a smug expression. Nonsense, if he didn't hug me, would you hug me? Zhang Biao was so scared that his entire body trembled. Sister-in-law, don't speak nonsense. If young Master Qin hears this, his life will be shortened. Sister-in-law, aren't you with young Master Qin? How could you mess around with another man? Zhang Biao was a bit angry. He felt that Dongfang Qingshue was too frivolous. However, Dongfang Qingshue was young Master Qin's woman, so he couldn't say it out loud. It's my freedom to be with whomever I want. What's your business? Dongfang Qingshue became unreasonable. She was usually this willful. Zhang Biao was rendered speechless by Dongfang Qingshue. When Chen Hai saw that junior sister Qingshue chose an ugly freak over him, he was extremely angry. Sect leader Qing Yuan and the two senior sisters looked at Dongfang Qingshue in astonishment. In their minds, though Dongfang Qingshue was a bit willful, she was a woman who was loyal to her master. Why would she do such a thing? Qingshue, there are so many people in the hall. It's best to be careful. Qing Yuan vaguely reminded her. Dongfang Qingshue was very respectful to sect leader Qing Yuan. She immediately shyly came out of Qin Feng's embrace. Sect leader Qing Yuan, this disciple knows her mistake. It's fine. Let's go to the side. The treasure appraisal conference is about to begin. There will be too many people, so don't get separated. Sect leader Qing Yuan had already left with the two female disciples. Chen Hai and Zhang Biao glared at Qin Feng and left unwillingly. You should go too. It'll be more convenient for me to move around alone. Your appearance is outstanding, so people will look at you wherever you go. Qin Feng said softly to Dongfang Qingshue. Dongfang Qingshue was a bit excited to be praised for her appearance. However, her expression turned cold. Then I'll go first. Be careful. There were still 5 minutes before the treasure appraisal conference began. On the second floor of the hotel, a few people stood by the staircase and watched the situation below. Everyone wore white robes, but the elder in the middle wore a gray robe. His status was immediately highlighted. Ling Daozi, do you see the person you're fighting with? The gray-robed elder's voice was deep. Ling Daozi stood beside the elder. His status was obviously a few levels lower than the elder's. He had already looked through the crowd several times, but he didn't see Qin Feng. 3 days ago, Ling Daozi had asked Ling Fei to notify the Starlight sect and have the sect's elders come out to oversee the martial arts circle convention. The result was out of Ling Daozi's expectation. This time, not only did the sect send 2 great elders, even the vice sect leader Ling Tianhai came. It was the gray-robed elder, Sanjiang. Chapter 10-19. The gray-robed elder was the vice sect master of Stellar Sect, Ling Tianhai. Even Ling Daozi couldn't see through his profound cultivation. Beside Ling Tianhai stood 2 white-robed people, 1 male and 1 female. The male was called Ling Yangzi, and the female was called Ling Shuigu. They were both great elders of Stellar Sect. After Ling Fei informed the sect, Ling Tianhai and the 2 great elders of Stellar Sect came out. The 2 great elders were experts at the peak of Stage 9 Inner Qi. Including Ling Daozi, there were a total of 3 experts at the peak of Stage 9 Inner Qi. This kind of lineup was powerful enough. Sect Master Tianhai, I'm afraid that brat has already run away. He's not in this hall. Ling Daozi angrily complained after looking through the crowd. 3 days ago, Ling Daozi was severely injured by Qin Feng. This matter had completely disgraced him. Now the elders and vice sect master of Stellar Sect had come to suppress Qin Feng, but they couldn't find Qin Feng's shadow. Ling Daozi felt aggrieved just thinking about this matter. The 2 elders didn't say anything. The vice sect master, Ling Tianhai, stood with his hands behind his back. His old eyes shone brilliantly, and there was not a trace of turbidity in them. Ling Daozi, do you see that scar-faced man? Ling Tianhai suddenly asked. Ling Daozi and the 2 elders were a little puzzled. They didn't know why sect master Tianhai was concerned about the scar-faced man at this time. However, the 3 of them looked toward the hall and quickly found Qin Feng. Sect master Tianhai, is that the ugly man sitting in the corner drinking wine? Yin Tianhai nodded lightly. That face is not his original appearance. His scar-face face is a layer of true energy formation. Only those who have broken through to the true energy stage can see through the essence of his appearance. Ling Tianhai's words hit the nail on the head, startling Ling Daozi and the other 2. Although there were many experts in the outer martial arts world, there were very few who could step into the true energy stage. That Zheng Shuai's appearance was really ugly and ordinary. Ling Daozi and the other 2 never imagined that this face was actually a true energy formation. This meant that this man was definitely an expert of the true energy stage. Ling Daozi suddenly had a bad premonition and hurriedly asked, Sect Master Tianhai, what was that guy's original appearance like? Ling Tianhai's expression was as calm as ever, as if he was a deep ocean without a single ripple. It was a young lad in his early 20s. His appearance was decent, and he had an imposing appearance. Ling Tianhai's words made Ling Daozi even more nervous. He found that his guess seemed to have been confirmed. Tianhai sect leader, that scar-faced man is Qin Feng. He's actually a true Qi stage expert? How is this possible? Ling Daozi found it hard to accept this fact. How old was Qin Feng? He was only in his early 20s, yet he had already stepped into the true Qi stage. There had never been such a martial arts prodigy in the entire Wuxia ancient martial arts world. The expressions of the 2 elders also changed. Even Ling Tianhai was slightly moved. It seems that we still underestimated this kid. According to the investigation of the Starlight sect, Qin Feng was originally a hedonistic young master, without the strength to truss a chicken. But in this half a year, he suddenly rose and became the green dragon of Wuxia. Even you couldn't kill him. This person must have a huge secret. Perhaps he accidentally obtained a heaven-defying divine weapon, or a peerless skill. Let's not make a move for the time being. Once tonight's treasure convention is over, we'll capture him and interrogate him. Ling Tianhai already had a plan. Ling Daozi and the other 2 naturally listened to the vice sect leader. Among the 4 of them, 3 were at the peak of Stage 9 Inner Qi. Ling Tianhai's strength was even more unfathomable. So what if Qin Feng was a true Qi stage expert? They were confident that they could capture Qin Feng. Heroes of the outer martial arts world, please be quiet. I now announce that tonight's treasure convention officially begins. The treasure convention was held by the sect of the previous Martial Arts World Alliance master. When Ling Tianhai and the others had decided on a plan, Ling Daozi was already standing on the second floor and began to shout. Hearing this, everyone quieted down and raised their heads to look at the second floor. Only Ling Daozi and the 6 disciples of the Starlight sect were left standing on the second floor. Ling Tianhai and the 2 elders were nowhere to be seen. It's starting. The treasure convention is finally starting. Is that Senior Ling Daozi of the Starlight sect? He was the previous Martial Arts World Alliance master. Tisk. Ling Daozi can't hold on anymore. Didn't you hear? 3 days ago, the Green Dragon of Wuxia, Qin Feng, fought with Ling Daozi. At such a young age, he seriously injured Ling Daozi. This time, the Martial Arts World Alliance master must be Qin Feng. Gradually, the hall was filled with discussions. These voices clearly fell into Ling Daozi's ears. When he heard the voices discussing him and Qin Feng, Ling Daozi was so angry that his lungs almost exploded. However, Ling Daozi quickly calmed down. When he thought that tonight's treasure convention would be the day of Qin Feng's death, he instantly felt extremely carefree. After letting the people below discuss for a while, Ling Daozi said with a smile, "Everyone, our treasure convention is held once every 5 years. Every time, a variety of rare treasures will appear. I believe that everyone has been looking forward to tonight's convention. Let's proceed according to the usual procedures. First, we will have an exchange session. Half an hour later, we will have an exhibition. Finally, tonight's auction. I hope that everyone can take out whatever treasures they have for everyone to see. Tonight's treasure convention will be held by the Starlight sect. Therefore, everyone can exchange their treasures without worry. The Starlight sect can guarantee the safety of everyone and the safety of their treasures. If anyone causes trouble or steals, the Starlight sect will not let them off lightly. They will be killed on the spot." Ling Daozi looked down at the crowd, his body emitting the aura of a king. This was the outer martial arts world. Everything was done with fists. There were not many restrictions and rules. Killing people was just a matter of a blink of an eye. No one dared to object to Ling Daozi's arrogance. This was because the treasure convention existed together with the martial arts circle convention. The rules of every martial arts circle convention were the same. It was not that the Starlight sect was forcefully suppressing them this year. As Ling Daozi's voice fell, tonight's treasure convention officially began. The hall on the first floor was completely in an uproar. All kinds of martial arts heroes gathered together to exchange some treasures and cultivation experiences. Protector Hua, did your Wanchong Mountain really bring a treasure this time? Let me see it quickly. The elders of the Carefree sect gathered around Wanchong Mountain with a smile. Hua Xiong took out an exquisite jade bottle in front of everyone. As soon as he opened the bottle cap, a medicinal fragrance floated out. Those in the crowd who knew what it was immediately exclaimed, "Fuck! This is the smell of a grade 6 advancement pill. I wonder which brother has brought a grade 6 advancement pill. I am a disciple of the Quick Blade sect. I am willing to spend a lot of money to buy this pill." From time to time, exclamations could be heard from the crowd. Everyone took out their treasures. In fact, the exchange meeting and the exhibition were basically continuous. During the exchange meeting, everyone could not wait to take out their treasures and exchange them with each other. This kind of large-scale exchange was very helpful to every sect in the outer martial arts world. Some disciples might have a panacea in their hands, but this panacea was useless to them at the moment. Therefore, they could find disciples from other sects who had spiritual weapons, and then the two of them could exchange treasures to reach the point where they both needed it. Qin Feng was still sitting in the corner and sipping his red wine. Obviously, he was not interested in the treasures these disciples of the outer martial arts world took out. Qin Feng's spiritual weapons had all been raised to the grade of blue in the treasure pavilion. He also had a purple grade bloodthirsty blade and purple thunder wild robe. The spiritual weapons taken out in the exhibition meeting were at most blue grade. As for purple grade spiritual weapons, even if these people really had them, they would definitely keep them for their own use. Why would they take them out and sell them to others? As for elixirs, Qin Feng was even more disdainful. A few months ago, Qin Feng had already broken through to the realm of a grade 6 alchemist. If he wanted elixirs, he could refine them at any time through the system's alchemy pavilion. In the exhibition meeting, only Huixiong took out a grade 6 advancement pill. Most of the others took out grade 4 spiritual pills. In the exchange meeting, some people took out treasures, such as cultivation methods and martial techniques. In the ancient martial arts world of China, cultivation methods and martial techniques were also divided into different levels. From heaven, earth, black, and yellow, the lower the level, the lower the level. This was because cultivation methods were an important pillar to support the development of a sect. A high-level cultivation method could develop over time and create a powerful sect. Therefore, cultivation methods and martial techniques were very rare in China. They were even rarer than elixirs and spiritual weapons. Most of these people took out some martial techniques, and they were even the lowest grade of yellow grade martial techniques. Qin Feng's wind blade martial technique was an earth grade martial technique. How could he be interested in these people's items? The entire hall on the first floor was bustling like a wet market. Everyone was exchanging their treasures with each other, trying to find treasures that they wanted. Only Qin Feng sat alone in the corner, not paying attention to the outside world. It was as if he didn't belong here. Hey, why don't you go talk to the others? Don't tell me you don't have any treasures? A delicate rebuke sounded beside Qin Feng's ear. In the next second, Dongfang Qingxue sat opposite him with a tsundere expression. Qin Feng smiled faintly and looked down. Of course I have treasures. Do you want to find a place with no one around to show them to you? Dongfang Qingxue didn't react. She pouted and said, Why do you want to show them to a place with no one around? Is your treasure very powerful? Are you afraid of being robbed? Qin Feng's smile became even wider. He felt that teasing Dongfang Qingxue was quite fun. My treasure is quite big. If I show it in a public place like this, I'm afraid I'll scare everyone and attract jealousy. Dongfang Qingxue's starry black eyes darted back and forth. A trace of doubt appeared on her face. She already felt that something wasn't quite right. It seemed that the treasure Qin Feng mentioned was different from what she said. Fuck. You perverted bastard. What nonsense are you talking about? If you spout nonsense again, I'll call Grandpa. Dongfang Qingxue looked at Qin Feng's lower body and suddenly came to her senses. Qin Feng was amused by Dongfang Qingxue's angry expression. He laughed. You want to call Elder Dongfang and sue me? Then go ahead and call him. Let him know my masculinity. He'll definitely be more at ease to let you be with me. Chapter 1020. Oh right, Qingxue. You've been staying at Chuanzhong Restaurant for the past 3 days. Did you receive any news about Star Sect? Dongfang Qingxue snorted when Qin Feng started talking about serious matters. Humph. So what if I did? I'm not going to tell you. I'll piss you off. The corner of Qin Feng's mouth twitched. He was frightened by Dongfang Qingxue's angry look. When he first met Dongfang Qingxue, she was very cold and arrogant. She didn't even want to talk to you. He didn't know how she suddenly became like this. Dongfang Qingxue immediately sat up straight when she saw Qin Feng's surprised expression. She realized that she had lost her composure. Forget it if you don't want to tell me. I'll ask someone else later. Qin Feng said with a pout. Dongfang Qingxue had been paying attention to Star Sect's news for the past 3 days. Because Star Sect offended Qin Feng, Dongfang Qingxue hated this sect. However, as a proud young lady, how could she take the initiative to tell Qin Feng about these things? Qin Feng had to beg her before she could tell him. You really want to know about Star Sect, right? Then beg me. If I'm in a good mood, I'll tell you. Dongfang Qingxue squinted at Qin Feng and said, Almost all the books you want to read are available. It's much more stable and updated faster than normal websites. All text and no advertisements. How could Qin Feng not see through Dongfang Qingxue's thoughts? He purposely kept her in suspense. Since Miss Qingxue doesn't want to tell me, how can I force you? I'll ask someone else. Dongfang Qingxue was anxious when she saw that Qin Feng wasn't anxious at all. She wanted to tell Qin Feng about Star Sect. If Qin Feng asked someone else, then Dongfang Qing Shui would be wasting her time. Who are you asking? You're so ugly now, so it's best if you don't walk around. What if you scare people? Dongfang Qing Shui glared at Qin Feng angrily. Qin Feng almost fainted from anger. Big Miss Qing Shui, how can you talk about someone's appearance like that? I'm your fiancé after all. It was rare for Dongfang Qing Shui to anger Qin Feng, so she felt a little proud of herself. She didn't argue with Qin Feng anymore, and went straight to the point. Ugly, you better be careful. I heard that 2 great elders came to the stellar school. They might have been called over by Ling Daozi to take revenge on you. Qin Feng's expression changed slightly, and he became serious. How powerful are those 2 elders? I heard from the martial artists that there are 2 experts at the peak of stage 9 inner qi. They're even stronger than Ling Daozi, Dongfang Qing Shui said nervously. In Dongfang Qing Shui's opinion, Qin Feng was only at the peak of stage 9 inner qi. Now that the Starlight sect had 3 peak stage 9 inner qi masters, if they recognized Qin Feng wouldn't be able to escape. Qin Feng's expression darkened. He never thought that there would be so many experts in the inner hidden sections. Even a great elder was at the peak of stage 9 inner qi? Alright, I understand. Qin Feng nodded at Dongfang Qing Shui. Dongfang Qing Shui started to worry about Qin Feng. She didn't know what to say. The atmosphere suddenly became silent. Both of them were lost in their own thoughts. The exchange meeting was still in full swing. Qin Feng was even more anxious to find the Saint Soul Stone. Only by refining the Starry Sky Flying Sword could he greatly increase his strength in a short period of time. However, Qin Feng couldn't find the Saint Soul Stone after scanning the hall. Most of the treasures brought by the disciples of the martial arts world were elixirs, skills, and spiritual weapons. Those high-level materials didn't seem to be valued by everyone. Heroes of the martial arts world, the exchange meeting is over. Now please be quiet. As the organizer of this event, the Stellar School is about to display the treasures for tonight's exhibition. Everyone can view and appreciate them. Ling Daozi's voice suddenly came from upstairs. The noisy hall quickly quieted down. Qin Feng and Dongfang Qing Shui raised their heads and looked at Ling Daozi. Their eyes flashed with coldness. To avoid exposing their identities, Qin Feng quickly lowered his head and pretended not to know Ling Daozi. Qin Feng, what do you plan to do next? Don't tell me you came to this treasure convention to assassinate Ling Daozi? Dongfang Qing Shui thought of many questions just now. She looked at Qin Feng worriedly. Qin Feng rolled his eyes. He was speechless at Dongfang Qing Shui's imagination. Assassinate Ling Daozi tonight? Am I crazy? You already said that the Stellar School has 2 great elders at the peak of stage 9 inner qi. Wouldn't I be throwing my life away? Of course, Dongfang Qing Shui didn't want Qin Feng to go. She only asked because she was afraid that Qin Feng would do something stupid. When she saw Qin Feng was angry at her, Dongfang Qing Shui snorted coldly. TSK, I thought you were strong. 2 peak stage 9 inner qi martial artists scared you to this extent. How embarrassing. Dongfang Qing Shui didn't feel any pain at all. Qin Feng's mouth twitched. Even if your grandfather came, he would be scared away, let alone me. What Qin Feng said was the truth. Both of them were at the peak of stage 9 inner qi. Qin Feng might be able to defeat them one-on-one, but the other party had 3 peak stage 9 inner qi experts. Even if Dongfang Mingwang came, he wouldn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Nonsense. My grandfather is invincible in China. No one can defeat him. Dongfang Qing Shui worshipped her grandfather. How could she let Qin Feng badmouth her grandfather? Qin Feng curled his lips. He didn't want to argue with Dongfang Qing Shui anymore. He stood up and walked towards the center of the hall. Ling Daozi came down from the 2nd floor. He was followed by the 2 great elders of the Stellar School. However, Ling Tianhai wasn't among them. In other words, the entire Devil City didn't know that Ling Tianhai was also here. After Ling Daozi came down, a few disciples of the Stellar School pushed 2 large display racks to the center of the hall. A group of people walked past the crowd. When they arrived at Qin Feng, Ling Daozi's footsteps slightly slowed down. However, he quickly returned to normal. Qin Feng stood in the crowd, and was not afraid of being recognized by Ling Daozi and the two great elders. This was because Qin Fun's current appearance was a disguise that the divine dragon had set up using the strength of the true Qi stage. Only an expert of the true Qi stage would be able to see through it. Two large display racks were already set up. Each of the racks was more than 10 meters long and 3 meters tall. The racks were divided into 5 layers, and each layer contained different treasures. Everyone had already gathered around. When they saw the dazzling array of treasures, their eyes lit up with greed. If it wasn't for the fact that the Stellar School's people were guarding this place, everyone would have rushed up to fight for the treasures. Sanjiang. Chapter 1021. As soon as the two racks were displayed, the treasure convention tonight reached a climax. The eyes of the disciples from the major sects in the outer martial arts world were red. Everyone stared fixedly at the treasures on the racks. Their saliva dripped out. Ling Daozi and the two elders stood to the side without making a sound. The three of them secretly peeked at Qin Fun. Qin Fun stood in the crowd with a calm expression. It was as if the treasures on the two shelves were just a pile of scrap metal to him. Lu Wenwao, Zheng Shuai, there are so many treasures here. Do you like any of them? Even Dongfang Qingxue cried out in excitement. In reality, she wasn't that interested in the treasures that martial artists fancied. From this, it could be seen that the treasures in this exhibition were as common as the clouds. Qin Feng's gaze quickly swept across the racks. He wasn't interested in the elixirs, cultivation methods, and spiritual weapons. Instead, he was looking for the Saint Soul Stone. After looking around, Qin Feng sighed in his heart. He didn't seem to find the Saint Soul Stone. These treasures are very ordinary. I don't like them. Qin Feng had nothing to hide in front of Dongfang Qingxue, so he spoke the truth. Dongfang Qingxue pouted and glared at Qin Feng. Come on, you don't like so many treasures? Even if you like them, you don't have the money to buy them, right? Unknowingly, Dongfang Qingxue liked the feeling of bickering with Qin Feng. Even though she didn't admit it, her actions betrayed her. How would you understand the pursuit of an expert like me? Qin Feng didn't argue with Dongfang Qingxue and pretended to be profound. Dongfang Qingxue angrily put her hands on her hips and ruthlessly pinched Qin Feng's waist. What do you mean? Are you calling me an ignorant little girl? Hurry up and apologize to me. Dongfang Qingxue started to act willfully like a child again. Qin Feng actually quite liked the current Dongfang Qingxue. At least, she was much better than the arrogant and conceited young miss from before. Looking at Dongfang Qingxue's flushed face and her slightly curled sexy lips, Qin Feng almost pounced on her and bit her. If that's what you think, then there's nothing I can do. Dongfang Qingxue realized that every time she argued, she would lose. She was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. Her beautiful, starry eyes flashed, and she suddenly smiled evilly at Qin Feng. All right, you say that you're an otherworldly expert, and you don't care for these treasures, right? Then buy that pill for me. Qin Feng followed Dongfang Qingxue's finger, and saw a Tier 5 violent demon pill on the third shelf. My young miss, do you know what that pill is? What do you want it for? Qin Feng was speechless. If Dongfang Qingxue really wanted the berserk demon pill, Qin Feng could even concoct a rank 6 demonic dissolving pill, let alone an item berserk demon pill. However, under normal circumstances, no one would eat this kind of pill. The berserk demon pill had side effects on the body. Although the demonic dissolving pill had no side effects, it could cause a person to fall into a trance and lose their mind. When Qin Feng fought with purple dragon Su Xiaotian at Broken Cliff Mountain, he fell into a trance after eating the demonic dissolving pill. Dongfang Qingxue really didn't know the medicinal properties of the berserk demon pill. She just wanted to make things difficult for Qin Feng. Why do you care? Just buy it for me. I'll feed it to my poodle at home, alright? Dongfang Qingxue held her head high and Qin Feng almost burst out in laughter. Feeding a Tier 5 berserk demon pill to a dog? This young miss is even more wasteful than me. Moreover, if a normal dog ate the berserk demon pill, wouldn't it become a rabid dog? I can't afford it. If you want to buy it yourself. Qin Feng wouldn't play around with Dongfang Qingxue. Dongfang Qingshue's expression turned cold. She started to stomp on Qin Feng's shoes angrily. However, at this moment, a group of men as strong as bulls walked over. The leader was an old man in his 50s. The disciples behind him rushed over and yelled at Qin Feng. "Stinking brat! I finally found you. You were so arrogant when you were queuing up in front. Now that our black elder is here, let's see if you can still be arrogant." Qin Feng and Dongfang Qingshue's conversation was interrupted. Both of them looked over. The people who came were all dressed in cold iron armor. Even though it was winter, half of their arms and legs were exposed, as if they weren't afraid of the cold. Qin Feng recognized the arrogant man with a single glance. It was Big Brother Black Bull, who wanted to cut the queue not long ago. At that time, Qin Feng sent him flying with a slap. He didn't expect the brawny man to bring people to cause trouble. "Hey, who are you? What do you want?" Before Qin Feng could speak, Dongfang Qingshue glared at Big Brother Black Bull. Big Brother Black Bull and the others finally saw Dongfang Qingshue. The group of 7 to 8 Ox Village disciples were instantly attracted by Dongfang Qingshue's beauty. "Hey, beautiful lady, which sect are you a female disciple from?" "We're from the Ox Village of the outer martial arts world. This is our Black Elder." Big Brother Black Bull instantly forgot his purpose of coming. He threw Qin Feng to the side and started flirting with Dongfang Qingshue in front of everyone. The Ox Village's Black Elder's gaze also sized up Dongfang Qingshue. This guy was already over 50 years old, but his heart wasn't honest at all. Dongfang Qingshue's hair stood on end from being stared at. She shouted angrily, "You little tramps think you're worthy of knowing this young Mrs. Sect? Hurry up and move to the side. Don't ruin this young Mrs. mood." In front of outsiders, Dongfang Qingshue instantly recovered her cold and arrogant demeanor. The Ox Village people weren't angry. Instead, their eyes flickered with a pleased light. They seemed to like Dongfang Qingshue, this great beauty with an icy personality. "Black Elder, it's this stinking brat. He actually dared to make a move on me. I hope Black Elder can come out and teach him a lesson." Big Brother Black Bull was also very tactful. He didn't bother Dongfang Qingshue for the time being. He was prepared to use this opportunity to suppress Qin Feng, to show off in front of Dongfang Qingshue. The techniques of picking up girls in the outer world were simple and violent. As long as you beat someone up in front of a beauty, you would highlight your aggressiveness and strength, and most beauties would take the initiative to throw themselves into your arms. Black Elder's face was as black as his nickname. He glared coldly at Qin Feng. "Stinking brat, you dared to offend the people of my Ox Village. It seems that you're tired of living." Qin Feng swept his gaze over the people of Ox Village. Only this Black Elder had the strength of a stage 8 inner chi. The rest seemed to be around stage 6 inner chi. "Black Devil, I advise you to scram to the side. Otherwise, if you anger this elder, no one can save you." Qin Feng didn't put Ox Village in his eyes at all. He couldn't even be bothered to look at Black Elder. The people of Ox Village were suddenly shocked. They stared at Qin Feng with extreme shock. This brat actually called Black Elder Black Devil? This touched Black Elder's reverse scale. Soon, a playful smile appeared on the faces of Big Brother Black Bull and his disciples. It was as if they could already see Qin Feng's miserable state. "Brat, how dare you call this elder Black Devil? This elder will teach you a lesson." Black Elder was indeed enraged. Without another word, he slapped his palm towards Qin Feng. Qin Feng lightly dodged and pulled Dongfang Qingshue to the side. His speed was so fast that by the time Black Elder reacted, he realized that his palm was about to land on another man. Bang! A muffled sound exploded in the hall. Black Elder slapped a Quick Blade sect disciple and sent him flying. The disciple was wholeheartedly admiring the treasures on the display rack. Who would have thought that someone would launch a sneak attack on him? At this moment, his body was floating in the air, and he was in so much pain that he wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. Roar! The hall suddenly burst into an uproar. Many people didn't understand the situation and thought that someone was trying to rob them of their treasures. An inner 8th layer elder of the Quick Blade sect saw everything clearly. When he saw the Black Elder of the Nyo village send his disciple flying without any reason, the elder of the Quick Blade sect blew his beard and glared at him. He immediately rushed forward to reason with him. Damn you! How dare you make a move in the treasure convention? I'll kill you! The Quick Blade sect elder slapped him. Black Elder had just slapped a disciple away, so he didn't have time to make a second move. His face was forcefully slapped, and he almost flipped over. The disciples of the two sects surrounded them. They stood in 2 rows on each side and glared at each other. It was as if they would explode at any moment. Damn geezer, how dare you attack Black Elder? Does your Quick Blade sect not want to live anymore? Big Brother Black Bull angrily glared at the Quick Blade sect elder. He only dared to curse, but he didn't dare to make a move. Black Elder hastily slowed down. He was so depressed that he wanted to die. That slap just now was clearly aimed at Qin Feng. So how did he accidentally send a Quick Blade sect disciple flying instead? Black Elder was in the wrong, so he didn't have the guts to stand out and say anything. You little tramp. Do you think you have the right to speak here? If you speak any more nonsense, I'll beat you up as well. The Quick Blade sect elder didn't put Big Brother Black Bull in his eyes at all. He suddenly raised his hand and scared Big Brother Black Bull so much that he almost knelt down. What's going on here? Seeing that the two sides were about to start fighting, an angry roar came from afar. The crowd very consciously made way for them. Ling Daozi brought 2 elders with him as he strode over. The disciples of the Quick Blade sect and the Ox village were so shocked that their expressions changed drastically. They were so excited just now that they had forgotten the rules of the Treasure Inspection Conference. Slap slap. Ling Daozi was more than 10 meters away a second ago, but in the next moment, he was already standing in front of Black Elder and the Quick Blade sect leader. Moreover, he raised his hand and slapped them twice, making them dizzy and disoriented. Bastard, what did we say before? You dare to cause trouble in the Treasure Inspection Convention? Kill without mercy. Ling Daozi's body exploded with a powerful aura, and the hall immediately became deathly silent. Everyone didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The 2 elders were old men in their 50s, but they didn't dare to complain when they were beaten by Ling Daozi, a 30-year-old junior. This was the rule of the outer martial arts world. Everything depended on one's fists. Ling Daozi's strength was higher than the 2 of them, so he dared to teach them a lesson. Alliance leader Ling Daozi, I was too impulsive. I hope Alliance leader can spare Niu Zhuang this time. Black Elder had completely lost his temper and was pleading with Ling Daozi. The legs of all the disciples of the Quick Blade sect were trembling, and the elder hurriedly said, Alliance Master Ling Daozi, it was the elder of the Ox village who sent one of my disciples flying for no reason. I only took action in a fit of anger. I hope that the Alliance Master can see through this. The 2 sect elders humbly pleaded for leniency in public, but no one looked down on them because of this. The fame of the Starlight sect was too great. It was one of the hidden 5 hegemons. Moreover, Ling Daozi was now the leader of the martial arts circle. In front of him, ordinary sects would have to bow their heads. Sanjiang. Chapter 1022. Disqualification. Ling Daozi's expression was cold. This was mainly because they were in the lobby of the hotel. If he really killed the people from the Quick Blade sect in Niu Zhuang, he would dirty the hotel. If they were outside with Ling Daozi's ruthless character, he would have already attacked. People from Niu Zhuang and the Quick Blade sect, listen up. Hurry up and get out of here. You will be disqualified from participating in this martial arts circle convention. Ling Daozi roared loudly. Sighs came from the crowd. The martial arts circle convention was held once every 5 years. All the major sects in the outer martial arts world were waiting for this convention to show off their skills. Now Ling Daozi's words completely sentenced the Quick Blade sect and Niu Zhuang to death. Elder Black and the Quick Blade sect's elders' faces were ashen. Their intestines were green with regret. They also had some resentment in their hearts. They felt that Ling Daozi's way of handling things was too tyrannical. However, under the might of the Stars sect and Ling Daozi, the 2 elders didn't even dare to let out a fart. They believed that if they didn't agree, Ling Daozi would immediately kill them. Thank you, Alliance Master Ling Daozi, for not killing us. Quick Blade sect's disciples, listen up. Return to the sect with me now. The Quick Blade sect's elder quickly made a decision. This was his only choice. The 8 disciples of the Quick Blade sect had already left with the elder. Seeing them walk out of the restaurant's entrance, many people sighed in their hearts. Everyone's gaze fell on Elder Black and the Niu Zhuang disciples. Elder Black was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He had already decided to leave, but he was extremely unwilling. Originally, everyone was peacefully looking at the exhibits. It was because of Qin Feng that Niu Zhuang's qualification to participate in this martial arts circle convention was disqualified. Elder Black angrily glared at Qin Feng. Since their Niu Zhuang was chased away, Elder Black was prepared to drag someone down with him before he died. What do you mean? You don't want to leave? Ling Daozi's expression darkened. He suddenly glared coldly at Elder Black. Elder He was so scared that his entire body trembled. He said with a smile, "Alliance Master Ling Daozi, please don't misunderstand. Our Ox village will leave immediately. It's just that before we leave, we want to tell Alliance Master the cause of the incident. It's all because of that stinking brat that caused a misunderstanding between me and the Quick Blade sect's elder. I hope that sect leader Ling Daozi can chase that stinking brat away as well, so that he doesn't ruin the order of today's treasure inspection conference." Everyone looked in the direction Elder Black was pointing, and their gazes fell on Qin Feng. Qin Feng's lips curled into a cold smile. He looked at Elder Black and didn't say anything. Dongfang Qing Shui was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. It was clearly Elder Black who brought people to cause trouble for Qin Feng. But this old man still had the nerve to hit her? Everyone present shook their heads and sighed as they looked at Qin Feng. They could already guess what would happen to Qin Feng. It was clear that Ling Daozi would disqualify him from the martial arts circle convention, and he would be chased away along with the people from the Ox village. Moreover, it seemed that the Black Elder of the Ox village had a deep hatred for Qin Feng. After both sides were kicked out of the hotel, the people of the Ox village would definitely take revenge on Qin Feng. Ling Daozi had long since looked at Qin Feng, and his expression immediately turned cold. The others didn't know Zheng Shuai's true identity, but Ling Daozi was already certain that he was Qin Feng. Not long ago, Ling Daozi and sect leader Ling Tianhai had come up with a plan to deal with Qin Feng. They would pretend to not know Qin Feng first, and they would capture him after the treasure inspection conference was over. If they chased Qin Feng away now, then wouldn't Ling Daozi and the others' plan for tonight be foiled? Slap. Everyone was waiting for Ling Daozi to sentence Qin Feng to death, but they suddenly heard a muffled sound. Then, everyone was dumbstruck. They looked at the scene before them in disbelief. Ling Daozi actually sent Elder Black flying with a slap? Alliance leader Ling Daozi Yu. Big Brother Black Bull was so frightened that his legs trembled. He was dumbfounded by Ling Daozi's actions. Elder Black lay on the ground, and his face contorted in pain. However, he didn't dare to make a single sound. Ling Daozi's expression was ice cold. He stared at Elder Black on the ground and roared, "Do I need you to teach me how to do things? Hurry up and take your disciple and scram." Ling Daozi roared angrily, scaring everyone silly. Elder Black couldn't care less about the pain in his body. He hurriedly crawled up and ran out. The disciples of the Niu village also came to their senses. Their legs trembled as they followed Elder Black out of the hotel. The farce ended just like that. After Ling Daozi watched the people of the Niu village leave, he didn't look at Qin Feng again. He swaggered to the center of the hall. "I've said before that tonight's treasure inspection conference will be hosted by our Star Sect. The Star Sect will protect everyone's personal and property safety. I don't want what happened just now to happen a second time. Otherwise, I'll kill without mercy." Ling Daozi's voice was cold, and it was like muffled thunder that struck everyone's hearts. Previously, Ling Daozi had said to kill without mercy, but he repeated it this time. Everyone believed that Ling Daozi would do what he said. After the incident with the Niu village and the Quick Blade sect, the scene of the treasure inspection conference became much quieter. Everyone looked at the treasures on the display racks in an orderly manner. Even when they saw some astonishing treasures, they could suppress their exclamations. They were deeply afraid that they would accidentally offend Ling Daozi. Under Ling Daozi's lead, the people from the Star sect wandered around the Great Hall, maintaining order at all times. Ling Daozi and the two elders seemed to be patrolling absent-mindedly, but their gazes would occasionally glance at Qin Feng. Qin Feng stood calmly in the crowd. He still hadn't found the Saint Soul Stone, so he wasn't interested in the other treasures at all. Dongfang Qingxue stood beside Qin Feng. She was still a little scared after what happened just now. Dongfang Qingxue felt that Qin Feng's luck was really too good. With Ling Daozi's arrogant and overbearing personality, he actually didn't chase Qin Feng away? It was unbelievable just thinking about it. Beauty Qingxue, do you have any treasures that catch your eye? A burst of laughter could be heard. An elegant man in a blue robe had appeared beside Yun Qingxue at some point in time. You know me? Who are you? Yun Qingxue looked at the man cautiously. She couldn't help but lean toward Qin Feng. A cold glint flashed in the man's eyes, but he quickly regained his smile. Hehe, Beauty Qingxue. I'm the genius disciple of the Wudong sect, Zhang Duanya. Beauty Qingxue is so charming and pure like a white lotus. I can't help but want to make friends with you. Zhang Duanya looked like a gentleman. Coupled with his handsome looks and high status, many female disciples of the outer martial arts world were interested in him. Zhang Duanya had long noticed Dongfang Qingxue and was about to greet her. However, the incident between the Ox Village and the Quick Blade sect happened. Now that the situation had calmed down, Zhang Duanya came to strike up a conversation with her. Qin Feng stood to the side with a cold smile on his face. A few months ago, Qin Feng had broken the Wudong 13 sword formation during the Second Martial Arts World disturbance and violently beat up Zhang Duanya. At that time, Zhang Duanya was only a stage 7 inner chi cultivator. Now, his strong aura indicated that he had stepped into stage 8 inner chi. This cultivation speed made Qin Feng's eyes light up. Sorry, I'm not interested in you. You should find someone else. Dongfang Qingxue's expression turned cold as she directly rejected Zhang Duanya. Recently, Dongfang Qingxue had been staying in the Sichuan restaurant. She had forgotten that she had been hit on hundreds of times by men. She was mentally tired. Zhang Duanya was young and promising. He had a bit of fame in the outer martial arts world. He had never failed in wooing a woman. Now that he was rejected, he felt a bit embarrassed. Beauty Qingxue, what do you think of that white quality jade water sword? If you like it, I'll buy it for you immediately. Zhang Duanya didn't leave. He planned to use treasures to attract Dongfang Qingxue. Dongfang Qingxue actually wasn't a true martial artist. Although she had cultivated to stage 4 inner chi, she lived in the provincial capital most of the time. She wasn't interested in cultivation or spiritual weapons. No need. Zhang Duanya's expression changed slightly. He didn't think that white-quality spiritual weapons wouldn't interest Dongfang Qingxue. Zhang Duanya hesitated for a moment. He gritted his teeth and pointed at a long whip flickering with orange light on the display case. Could it be that Beauty Qingxue likes to use long whips? That cloud swallow whip isn't bad. It's the right size and is just right for Miss Qingxue. If you like it, I can also get it. In order to woo Dongfang Qingxue, Zhang Duanya had made up his mind. He had lost his azure-tipped sword in the martial world disturbance last time, and he was now using white-grade spiritual swords. However, he was prepared to get orange-grade cloud swallow whip for Dongfang Qingxue. Dongfang Qingxue's expression became increasingly cold. She had already seen through Zhang Duanya's intentions. However, before she could speak, Qin Feng, who had been silent all this time, suddenly laughed. Brother, it looks like you have a high status in the outer martial arts world. You can get any treasure. Zhang Duanya didn't pay attention to Qin Feng before. Now that he saw Qin Feng's scarred face, he felt disdain in his heart. Who are you, brat? You think you're worthy of talking to me? Qin Feng laughed in his heart. He thought to himself, who I am isn't important. Since you're so powerful, can you get me an Azure Peak sword? I heard it's one of Wu Dang's 6 great treasured swords. It should be very powerful, right? Once Qin Feng mentioned the Azure Peak sword, Zhang Duanya's entire face changed. Ever since Zhang Duanya lost the Azure Peak sword and returned to be scolded by the elders and sect leader of Wu Dang sect, this incident left a shadow in Zhang Duanya's heart. Now he hated it when people mentioned the 3 words Azure Peak Sword. Brat, who do you think you are? Do you think you can see Wu Dang's 6 great spiritual swords just because you want to? Zhang Duanya glared at Qin Feng while panting with rage. Qin Feng revealed a smile. If you don't have it, then forget it. I was just curious. Qin Feng's words rendered Zhang Duanya speechless. He really did not have the azure-tipped sword right now. That sword had been snatched away by Qin Feng, and now Qin Feng's reputation in the martial arts world had soared. Ever since the battle 3 days ago, the Wu-Tang sect's sect leader had ordered that they were not to offend Qin Feng in the future. The Wu-Tang sect did not want that azure-tipped sword anymore. Only Zhang Duanya understood what Qin Feng said. Dongfang Qingxue was confused. Zhang Duanya glared at Qin Feng while panting with rage, and suddenly changed the topic. Even though I didn't bring the Azure Peak sword, I have a lot of spiritual pills and medicine on me. I also have some other spiritual weapons and cultivation methods. These treasures are things you can't normally see. For example, the Wu Dang sect that I belong to is the #1 sect in the outer martial arts world. The cultivation resources in the sect are countless. It's not something a trash disciple of a small sect like you can imagine. Sanjiang. Chapter 1023. Zhang Duanya stared at Qin Feng with his head held high. His insufferably arrogant demeanor seemed as if he was about to float to the heavens. He even stole a glance at Dongfang Qingxue, thinking that Dongfang Qingxue would definitely be moved. However, he realized that woman's expression was becoming colder and colder. As one of the 5 sects of China, the Wu-Tang sect is indeed powerful. Since you've said so much, why don't you show us some treasures? Otherwise, I'll think you're bragging. Qin Feng looked at Zhang Duanya with a faint smile, as if he was looking at an idiot. However, Zhang Duanya didn't see Qin Feng's expression. He thought that Qin Feng was frightened by his own sect, and became even more arrogant. Consider yourself lucky today. Then I'll just casually take out some of my personal belongings for you to see. Don't be scared to death later. Zhang Duanya said as he began to rummage through his clothes. Dongfang Qingxue laughed coldly in her heart. As the Azure Dragon of China, Qin Feng must be experienced and knowledgeable. Dongfang Qingxue felt that a piece of trash like Zhang Duanya had the nerve to show off in front of Qin Feng. Zhang Duanya, on the other hand, had no idea. He was fantasizing about taking out treasures to slap Qin Feng in the face and capture Dongfang Qingxue's heart at the same time. After fiddling for a long time, Zhang Duanya finally fished out an exquisite jade bottle from his clothes. He carefully held it in his hand. Brat, open your eyes wide and take a good look. There are real spiritual pills inside. When the bottle was opened, a wave of fragrance wafted out. Many of the spectators smelled the medicinal fragrance and looked over. Someone already cried out in surprise. Huh? This fragrance is very similar to the smell of qi strengthening pills. A rank 4 qi strengthening pill is considered a superior pill. Among this group of outer martial artists, many had the strength of stage 6 inner qi. They needed qi strengthening pills, which weren't expensive, but were very helpful to them. Not long later, a large group of martial artists surrounded Zhang Duanya. They all stared at the qi strengthening pills in Zhang Duanya's hand with golden eyes. Haha, since someone has recognized the elixir in my hand, then let me give a simple introduction. That's right, the bottle in my hand is indeed qi strengthening pills. There are a total of 6 elixirs in the jade bottle. This kind of elixir has no effect on me, so I take them as healing pills. Zhang Duanya boasted to the heavens. The qi consolidating pill was indeed not very effective in helping him to break through, but he still treasured it very much. Normally, he would give it to the female disciples of other sects when he was picking up girls, and then use it to get a room. Most of them knew Zhang Duanya's identity, and they all looked at him enviously. The Wu-Tang clan was indeed worthy of being one of the 5 major sections. The cultivation resources possessed by the disciples of the sect were indeed abundant. Hero Zhang, since this qi strengthening pill has no effect on you, why don't you sell it to me? Someone could no longer hold it in, and asked Zhang Duanya for his opinion. Of course, Zhang Duanya did not plan to sell the qi strengthening pill. This was a treasure that he used to show off. However, he did not reject them directly, because he liked the feeling of being the center of attention. Hero Zhang, I want one too. Sell me one too. I heard that Hero Zhang is a genius disciple of the Wu-Tang clan. He stepped into the realm of stage 8 inner qi in his early 30s. In a few years, Hero Zhang's name will definitely resound throughout the martial arts world. In order to obtain the qi strengthening pill in Zhang Duanya's hands, many people had already put down their moral integrity and started to flatter him in various ways. Zhang Duanya was immensely pleased with himself. He felt as if he was about to float. Dongfang Qing Shui glared at Qin Feng with a cold expression. She lowered her voice and complained into Qin Feng's ear. Hurry up and take out an even more powerful pill to slap his face. I don't like him. As the daughter of the Dongfang clan, Dongfang Qing Shui was this direct and willful. She would directly suppress whoever she disliked. She would not beat around the bush and play those hypocritical tricks. Since Dongfang Qing Shui made such a request, Qin Feng naturally had to satisfy her. After all, this woman was Qin Feng's fiancée. Grade 4 qi strengthening pill. Not bad, not bad. Qin Feng chuckled as he looked at Zhang Duanya. Zhang Duanya thought that Qin Feng was also trying to flatter him. He immediately looked at Qin Feng arrogantly. TSK. Isn't it just a bottle of qi strengthening pill? It's trash that I don't even care about. Usually, I eat golden pills that are grade 6 and above when I cultivate. Rank advancement pills, diamond pills, knowledge pills, yin-yang golden pills. What kind of pills have I not seen? Zhang Duanya still flaunted his good deed. The surrounding martial artists all felt a wave of contempt for him. A 6th grade golden elixir was very rare in the outside martial arts world. Even in a hidden sect like the Starlight sect, it was very rare. However, although everyone knew that Zhang Duanya was bragging, no one exposed him. After all, everyone was very envious of the energy consolidation pill in Zhang Duanya's hands. They wanted to get one to stabilize their current strength. Since Brother Zhang doesn't care about the qi strengthening pill in your hands, why don't you give everyone a few? Qin Feng suddenly laughed. His words instantly silenced the noisy surroundings. The surrounding martial artists all looked at Qin Feng with an excited expression, as if they had seen their own father. The smile on Zhang Duanya's face instantly froze. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Are you crazy? This is a grade 4 spirit pill. How can you give it away so easily? Qin Feng flipped his hand and grabbed a large handful of qi strengthening pills. With Qin Feng's current strength, he was truly eating qi strengthening pills like healing pills. Moreover, he ate them in handfuls every time. Wow. Young hero. Are all of the qi strengthening pills in your hands? This is incredible. This young hero is the real deal. He can casually grab a handful of qi strengthening pills. Amazing, truly amazing. Everyone looked at Qin Feng's large hand. Their eyes glowed with greed like hungry wolves. Zhang Duanya suddenly choked. He felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. Young hero, you have so many qi strengthening pills. Why don't you sell me one? Just name your price. Everyone ignored Zhang Duanya and focused on Qin Feng. This was because Qin Feng had more than 30 qi strengthening pills in his hands. Moreover, the medicinal fragrance was clearly more fragrant than the qi strengthening pills in Zhang Duanya's jade bottle. This meant that Qin Feng's qi strengthening pills were of higher quality. Hey, what are you buying? I eat these pills like they are bubble gum. If you want one, I'll give you 2. Qin Feng casually grabbed 2 qi strengthening pills and threw them to a brawny man beside him. The brawny man suddenly froze. He felt as if he was dreaming. Why, young hero, why you're really giving them to me? Then I won't be courteous. I am Sky Mountain Sect's disciple Yin Sheng. In the future, if young hero needs anything, just look for me. I will do my best to help you. The brawny man took the 2 milky white pills. He was so excited that his voice was trembling. Everyone else could not remain calm. Qin Feng was too generous. These were grade 4 spirit pill qi strengthening pills. Qin Feng gave them away for free without saying a word. This was too fucking exciting. Young hero, I am a disciple of the Throwing Dagger Association. Can you give me one as well? I am an elder of the Shadowless Feet sect. I hope young hero can reward me with a chi-strengthening pill. In an instant, the crowd surged forward to ask Qin Feng for chi-strengthening pills. Even Dongfang Qingxue was stunned. She did not expect Qin Feng to give away pills for free. Although she was not interested in pills and spiritual weapons, Dongfang Qingxue knew the importance of these things to martial artists. Seeing Qin Feng give away pills one by one, Dongfang Qingxue felt a bit of heartache for Qin Feng. Did he do this to help her anger Zhang Duanya? Hey, you're really giving them away. I am not angry anymore. Hurry up and put the pills away. Don't you need them for your own cultivation? Dongfang Qingxue suddenly pulled Qin Feng to the side and whispered in his ear. The two of them were almost pressed together. Dongfang Qingxue's fragrance wafted into Qin Feng's nose. Qin Feng felt a bit of warmth in his heart when he saw eldest Mrs. Heartache. Miss Qingxue, I'm the one giving the pills. Why are you feeling heartache? Don't tell me you've really fallen for me? Qin Feng looked at Dongfang Qingxue with a smile. Dongfang Qingxue suddenly came to her senses. Qin Feng was right. Why was she feeling heartache? I can't be bothered with you. It's better if you give away all your pills. Dongfang Qingxue angrily flung Qin Feng's arm away. She felt that Qin Feng did not know how to appreciate kindness. Of course, Qin Feng understood Dongfang Qingxue's thoughts. However, rank 4 chi strengthening pills were really nothing to him. With Qin Feng's current status as a rank 6 alchemist, he could refine a few batches in a matter of minutes. Everyone, I only brought 40 chi strengthening pills today. Now that I've given them away, I'll give them to everyone for free next time. Qin Feng chuckled as he looked at the crowd. The martial artists who received the chi-strengthening pills were grinning from ear to ear. Those who didn't get in line hung their heads dejectedly. Zhang Duanya had long since been forgotten by everyone and became transparent air. Young hero, you're too generous. I like to make friends with people like you. If you don't mind, can you tell us your name and sect? From now on, our North Pole sect will be your sect's ally. Our Sky Mountain sect is also young hero's friend. Kunlun sect is willing to become good friends with young hero. All the sects that received Qin Feng's chi-strengthening pills took the initiative to express their goodwill to Qin Feng. Qin Feng was able to use the chi-strengthening pills to solidify the goodwill of so many sections. However, Qin Feng appeared with the identity of Zheng Shuai, so it wasn't appropriate for him to announce the name of the Hero Alliance. He swept his gaze across the crowd and said with a smile, I'm a new disciple of the Blue Moon Observatory. I hope everyone will take care of me in the future. Qin Feng's words caused the crowd to gasp in surprise. The Blue Moon Observatory was only a small and unremarkable sect in the martial arts world. If Qin Feng didn't mention it, everyone would have forgotten about this sect. Dongfang Qingxue's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. A warm feeling surged in her heart. She finally understood Qin Feng's intention of giving away the pills for free. It turned out that he was helping the sect she was in gain fame. The Qing Yuan sect leader also stood in the crowd and stared dumbfoundedly at Qin Feng. How could a person who casually took out 40 chi strengthening pills be an ordinary person? Perhaps even Ling Daozi couldn't be so extravagant. Chapter 1024. Zhang Biao stood in the crowd with a darkened expression. He glared at Qin Feng with a huff, and looked like he wanted to rush up and fight Qin Feng. Qin Feng was too outstanding. He felt like he could compete with young Master Qin. Zhang Biao was worried that if things continued like this, sister-in-law Qing Shui would be poached away by that scar-faced man. Don't stand on ceremony, everyone. I'm not giving everyone the chi-strengthening pills to build relationships. It's just that these pills are useless to me. So why not give them to everyone? Brother Zhang from the Wu-Tang sect also said that the pills are useless to him. I believe he will also give them to everyone. As soon as Qin Feng finished speaking, everyone's gazes fell on Zhang Duanya. Zhang Duanya was so frightened that he immediately grabbed the jade bottle tightly in his hand. Young hero Zhang, since this little brother from the Blue Moon Temple has given it, a large sect like your Wu-Tang sect will definitely give it as well. Otherwise, we won't have the face to stay here. Everyone don't worry. We'll line up and wait for young hero Zhang to give us the chi-strengthening pills. If he doesn't, we'll break his dog legs. Everyone's eyes turned red when they saw the chi-strengthening pills. They even threatened Zhang Duanya. Zhang Duanya was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Whether it was in terms of face or martial arts, he had to give them. Cough cough. Then I'll give you 3 chi-strengthening pills. I'll keep the rest for use. Zhang Duanya clenched his teeth. 3 chi-strengthening pills seemed to have taken half his life. Dongfang Qingshui looked down on Zhang Duanya's behavior. She thought of Qin Feng's extravagant manner when he gave the pills, and was extremely careful. Why are you only giving 3? Is young hero Zhang so stingy? The Wu-Tang sect can't even compare to the Blue Moon Temple? This is really unexpected. Everyone was here to watch the show, and were not afraid of making things worse. They all made a ruckus. Zhang Duanya was so angry that his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He suddenly felt that his hand was empty. The jade bottle had disappeared. Haha. Don't worry, everyone. How could Brother Zhang only give 3? Let me see, there are only 6 left. Just nice for you. The jade bottle was in Qin Feng's hands at some point. He poured out the chi-strengthening pills and gave them away. Zhang Duanya was dazed for a moment and realized that all the pills he had saved were gone. He was so angry that he almost exploded. Hey, what are you doing? Who told you to give away the spirit pill? Zhang Duanya rushed up and yelled at Qin Feng. He looked like he was about to fight. Brother Zhang, what kind of attitude is that? Did I make a mistake? Could it be that you don't want to give everyone a chi-strengthening pill? Alright, I'll get it back for you. Qin Feng had a look of indifference on his face, and Zhang Duanya immediately became anxious. He had already given away the pill, so how could he have the face to ask for it back? That would be like slapping the Wu-Tang clan in the face. Besides, even if he wanted it, could he get it back? Zhang Duanya watched as the 6 people who had taken his pills swallowed the chi-consolidating pills in front of everyone. Cough cough. Forget it. I've already given it away. There's no reason to take it back. Anyway, I don't care about those 6 chi-strengthening pills. Just treat it as a gift to make friends with everyone. Zhang Duanya saw that the situation could no longer be salvaged, so he could only pretend to be calm and put on a confident expression. He thought that it would not be a loss if he could exchange 6 chi-consolidating pills for a friendly relationship with those 6 sections. TSK, who wants to make friends with you? Look at how distressed you were when you gave away the pills just now. I've never seen anyone more stingy than you. That's right. Just now, the young hero from the Blue Moon Monastery gave away so quickly. He brought 40 chi-strengthening pills at once, and you gave 6 to a beggar? What a disgrace. And you're even a member of the Wu-Tang clan. Zhang Duanya was still waiting for everyone to curry favor with him and say good things. But all he got were complaints and disdain. Zhang Duanya was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He had never seen such heartless and unscrupulous people before. Dongfang Qingshui bent over in laughter. She realized that Qin Feng's ability to mess with people was truly at the point of perfection, reaching a pinnacle that others could only look up to. If anyone was blind enough to offend Qin Feng, that person would truly have 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Everyone was still complaining about Zhang Duanya. But after complaining, they began to praise Qin Feng's extravagance and confidence. The Blue Moon Monastery that was originally neglected and even forgotten by everyone was constantly brought up in these 10 minutes. Evidently, it had become the main character of the day. Sect leader Qin Yuan and the 2 female disciples were grinning from ear to ear as they conversed with everyone. Chen Hai was also extremely pleased with himself. He kept telling everyone that he was the most powerful genius disciple of the Blue Moon Monastery. However, no one paid any attention to Chen Hai. Everyone surrounded Qin Feng and chatted happily. After making friends, everyone continued to admire the treasures on the display shelves. After all, the rank 4 chi-strengthening pills were much lower grade compared to the spirit pills on the display shelves. So everyone's focus was on the display shelves. Qin Feng was finally free, and Dongfang Qingshui came to Qin Feng's side. After what just happened, Dongfang Qingshui was inexplicably happy. She purposely stuck close to Qin Feng, shoulder to shoulder. Zhang Duanya was still suppressing a bellyful of anger after being disdained by everyone. He was a genius disciple of the Wu-Tang clan. But he couldn't even beat a new disciple of the Blue Moon Monastery? Seeing Dongfang Qingxue starting to stick close to Qin Feng, how could Zhang Duanya swallow this resentment? Stinking brat. How dare you trick me just now? You're courting death. Seeing that everyone had left, Zhang Duanya ran over to play hard on Qin Feng again. Dongfang Qingxue had never seen such a trashy man like Zhang Duanya. She glared at him and reprimanded. Are you done yet? Hurry up and leave, don't ruin our mood. Zhang Duanya was speechless after being reprimanded. He was here to woo Dongfang Qingxue. So he couldn't offend this woman, right? Zhang Duanya was also angered. He waved his hand and suddenly pulled out a long sword from his waist. The body of the sword flickered with orange light, and there was even a faint spiritual aura surging on it. It was obviously an orange-grade spiritual sword. Dongfang Qingxue was stunned when she saw the sword. She usually didn't pay attention to the spiritual weapons used by martial artists. This was the first time she saw an orange-grade spiritual sword at such a close distance. The waves of spiritual aura drifting over made Dongfang Qingxue feel comfortable all over. With the sword out, Zhang Duanya was instantly pleased. This was one of Wu Dang's 6 great swords, the Soaring Cloud Sword. It was as famous as the azure-tipped sword. A hint of a smile flashed across Qin Feng's eyes. Orange-grade spiritual swords were something he had been playing with for a few months. Qin Feng even gave the azure-tipped sword to Wen Yiming, the Spirit Blast sword to Qin Wudao, and the orange-grade fire rod to Yun Zhe. To the current Qin Feng, orange-grade spiritual weapons were completely unworthy of his attention. Brother Zhang, why did you suddenly pull out a long sword? Do you want to fight? Then I'll have to call the people from Stellar Gate over. Are you trying to cause trouble? Qin Feng's words scared Zhang Duanya so much that his arrogance immediately dissipated. He hurriedly hid the Soaring Cloud Sword in his sleeves and shouted in a low voice. Are you crazy? I want you to see Wu Dang's Soaring Cloud Sword. This is one of Wu Dang's 6 great swords that shares the same name as the azure-tipped sword. When did I say I wanted to cause trouble? Not long ago. The Quick Blade sect and the Ox Village were disqualified from participating in the Martial Arts Circle convention. In front of a hidden sect like Stellar Gate, Zhang Duanya of Wu Dang sect did not dare to act blindly without thinking. Qin Feng saw that Zhang Duanya was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat, and felt it was funny. He pretended to be enlightened and said, Oh, this is the Soaring Cloud Sword. Quick, let me take a closer look. Zhang Duanya's arrogance returned. He puffed out his chest and raised his head to glare at Qin Feng. Ha! This is one of my Wu Dang sect's 6 great swords. Normally, other people can't even see it even if they wanted to. You brat, you think you can see it just because you say so? Who do you think you are? Zhang Duanya took out the Soaring Cloud Sword to show off in front of Dongfang Qingxue, and also to whet Qin Feng's appetite. Seeing Qin Feng's eager expression, Zhang Duanya was extremely pleased. However, Zhang Duanya did not show off for a few seconds. Qin Feng pulled Dongfang Qingxue and turned to leave. Since you don't want to show it, don't take it out, you're crazy. Dongfang Qingxue was also very displeased. She did not forget to turn around and add, Idiot. Zhang Duanya held the Soaring Cloud Sword in his hand and felt a bit uncomfortable. He hurriedly chased after them and pulled Qin Feng to a corner with fewer people. Brother, don't go. I'll show it to you, alright? There were too many people there just now. I'm afraid that if I show it, it will cause a commotion. Qin Feng smiled and looked at Zhang Duanya. Oh, is that so? Now that there's no one here, take it out for me to see. Zhang Duanya was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Usually, it was people begging him to see Wu Dang's 6 great spiritual swords. Now, it was him begging Qin Feng to see the Soaring Cloud Sword. What the fuck was this? Although he was angry, Zhang Duanya still pretended to be calm and took out the Soaring Cloud Sword. The long sword was made very exquisitely, and there were even a few flying clouds carved on the blade. Dongfang Qingxue's eyes sparkled when she saw it. Zhang Duanya had been secretly observing Dongfang Qingxue's reaction. Seeing that she seemed to really like the Soaring Cloud Sword, Zhang Duanya's heart instantly became excited. He was confident that he could use this soaring cloud sword to trick Dongfang Qingxue into bed. Wow! So this is the soaring cloud sword. It truly lives up to its reputation. Qin Feng also pretended to be pleasantly surprised. He extended his hand to snatch the treasured sword from Zhang Duanya's hand. Tisk tisk. Look at how perfectly this sword is made. This sword must be very expensive, right? Zhang Duanya was so scared that his entire body trembled. He extended his hand to snatch the soaring cloud sword back. Hey! You brat, just look at it. Who told you to touch it? Qin Feng casually tilted his body and dodged Zhang Duanya's hand. He curled his lips and said, Brother Zhang, what are you so nervous about? There's no one else here. Let me touch it and feel it. This is one of Wu Dang's 6 great spiritual swords, the soaring cloud sword. It can't be damaged just by touching it. Qin Feng spoke with conviction, and Zhang Duanya couldn't refute him. Furthermore, Dongfang Qingxue was also here. If Zhang Duanya forcefully snatched the treasured sword back, it would seem like he wasn't generous enough. Zhang Duanya gritted his teeth and followed Qin Feng to examine the soaring cloud sword. At most, he would let that brat look at it for half a minute, and then he would take it back. Qin Feng casually swept a few glances at the soaring cloud sword. He wasn't excited. This orange-grade treasured sword was considered to be of high quality, but it was still an orange-grade spiritual weapon. Compared to Qin Feng's Heaven Splitter Axe and Blood Drinker Blade, it was far inferior. Chapter 1025. Actually, Qin Feng didn't lack anything in Hero City. Huabei built a herb garden in Hero City and planted all kinds of spiritual herbs and spiritual plants. The majority of the Yun family in the provincial capital had also moved to Hero City. The Yin family had always been a family of artifact refiners, and with the help of Hero City's funds and conditions, the Yin family's reputation was growing. The number of spirit artifacts they refined every year also increased, and in just a few short months, their reputation had already caught up to the Sima family's blacksmith shop. Now, Zhang Duanya was showing off the medicinal pills to Qin Feng, and he was showing off the soaring cloud sword. These actions were really going to make Qin Feng laugh to death. He had never seen someone who needed to be tortured so much. Hey! Are you done looking? Give me back the soaring cloud sword. Don't break it. Zhang Duanya was burning with anxiety and urged Qin Feng. Dongfang Qingxue raised her beautiful brows and looked down on Zhang Duanya even more. Can't you be more manly? Zheng Shuai just got the soaring cloud sword, and it hasn't even been 10 seconds. You shouldn't have taken it out in the first place. You're crazy. After being looked down upon by Dongfang Qingxue, Zhang Duanya felt extremely sullen. This time, he couldn't urge Qin Feng anymore. That was an orange equipment sword. How could it be broken? Zhang Duanya was slightly relieved. Qin Feng looked like he was admiring the soaring cloud sword, but he was secretly activating the fire of destruction. The flame of destruction was the myriad beast true fire. Its power was dozens of times stronger than the true qi flames released by a true qi expert. When Qin Feng fought with purple dragon Su Xiaotian at the Broken Cliff Mountain, he used the flame of destruction to melt Su Xiaotian's orange-grade heaven-splitting blade in a fit of anger. Rumble! A ball of fire appeared in Qin Feng's palm, but it was controlled by Qin Feng very well. It disappeared in the blink of an eye, and no one saw the fire of destruction appear. What's that sound? Zhang Duanya didn't see it, but he heard a faint sound. Qin Feng casually threw the soaring cloud sword to Zhang Duanya and said with a pout, Why are you so alarmed? It's just the sound of the wind. Look at how scared you are. Normally, Zhang Duanya wouldn't be startled by the sound of the wind. However, the soaring cloud sword was in Qin Feng's hands, so any rustle of grass in the wind would make him extremely nervous. At this moment, the soaring cloud sword had already returned to Zhang Duanya's hands. His heart finally calmed down. Thinking of his embarrassing action just now, he hurriedly laughed and said, Haha, what do you think? The flying cloud sword is one of the 6 spiritual swords of Wudong sect. It's very powerful, isn't it? The sect leader has entrusted it to me for safekeeping. With this spiritual sword, even though I'm only a stage 8 inner chi warrior, I can still fight against a stage 9 inner chi master. Zhang Duanya revealed a proud expression. He was only in his early 30s, but he already possessed the strength to fight against a stage 9 inner chi expert. Even in the entire pugilistic world, this kind of skill was extremely rare. Zhang Duanya had originally thought that after his boasting, Dongfang Qingshui's eyes would be filled with envy, and that Zheng Shuai would also be scared witless. In the end, he secretly glanced at the two of them, and discovered that this was not the case at all. TSK, he's only at the early stage of stage 9 inner chi. How can he be arrogant? How ignorant? Dongfang Qingshui couldn't help but grumble. Qin Feng was already at the peak of stage 9 inner chi, but he didn't talk about it every day. Qin Feng also put on a disdainful expression. He looked at the flying cloud sword in Zhang Duanya's hands and said, "Brother Zhang, this is only an orange-grade spiritual weapon. It's not as incredible as you've bragged. You're only at stage 8 inner chi. So how can you fight against a stage 9 inner chi martial artist with an orange-grade spiritual weapon?" Zhang Duanya was so angry that his lungs were about to explode after being despised by the two of them. He was also angry. He immediately glared at Qin Feng and roared, "Stinking brat, what do you mean by this? Are you looking down on our Wudong sect's 6 spiritual swords? If you have the guts, then fight with me right now. I'll let you see the power of this flying cloud sword." A majestic aura burst out from Zhang Duanya's body, pressuring Dongfang Qingshui to the point that she couldn't breathe. Qin Feng embraced Dongfang Qingshui in his arms. A layer of strong aura also appeared on his body, instantly suppressing Zhang Duanya's aura. "Are you fighting here? Then I'll first call Alliance Master Ling Dozi of the Starlight Sect over, and ask him if he'll let you hit him." Qin Feng's words scared Zhang Duanya so much that he immediately broke his aura. His aura instantly disappeared. Zhang Duanya didn't dare to call Ling Daozi over, unless their Wudong sect didn't want to participate in this year's martial arts circle convention. Looking at Zhang Duanya's sullen expression, Qin Feng smiled and said, "Because of the Treasure Inspection Guild's rules, I obviously can't fight with you. Why don't Brother Zhang just swing your sword a few times, and let us see your strength and the power of the flying cloud sword?" Qin Feng took the initiative to help Zhang Duanya out of his predicament, stunning both Zhang Duanya and Dongfang Qingshui. Dongfang Qingshui glared at Qin Feng angrily. She even secretly pinched Qin Feng's lower back and whispered into Qin Feng's ear, "Are you stupid? Why are you speaking up for him?" Qin Feng didn't explain and smiled at Dongfang Qingshui. Zhang Duanya came back to his senses and hurriedly waved the flying cloud sword in his hand. He wanted to properly display his strength and the power of the flying cloud sword. Whoosh! A streak of sword chi flew through the air, and even Dongfang Qingshui jumped in fright. The flying cloud sword was indeed a high-grade spiritual sword. When it was waved, it flashed with an orange light. The spiritual chi on the long sword instantly burst forth, as if the entire sword had a life of its own. Zhang Duanya waved the flying cloud sword, and his entire aura changed. He was like an expert pointing out the world with his sword. He even secretly glanced at Dongfang Qingshui. When he saw Dongfang Qingshui's shocked expression, he was indescribably pleased. Crack! Just as the flying cloud sword made a half circle in the air, a crisp sound suddenly rang out. Zhang Duanya felt the weight in his hand lighten. The flying cloud sword, one of the 6 great spiritual swords of Wudang, had actually been broken into 2. One half of the sword had already fallen to the ground. The atmosphere froze in an instant. Zhang Duanya's moves were all frozen in midair. His eyeballs had already fallen to the ground as he stared at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Dongfang Qingshui was also dumbfounded. Then, she couldn't help but hold her stomach and laughed. "Haha, you have the nerve to display this lousy sword? And you say it's one of the 6 great spiritual swords of Wudang? So the Wudang sect is actually such a noob?" Dongfang Qingshui convulsed with laughter. Zhang Duanya stood rooted to the ground, unable to regain his senses for a long time. A few months ago, Zhang Duanya had just lost the Wudang azure-tipped sword. Now he had broken the flying cloud sword. His back was drenched in cold sweat. It was as if he had seen the scene of himself being hung upside down on a tree stump and whipped by the Wu Dang sect leader. Aya, what the hell? Brother Zhang, what the hell is this? Why did it break after just one swing? Don't tell me you randomly took out a fake to play with us? Qin Feng pretended to be shocked as he stared at Zhang Duanya. Qin Feng knew best why the flying cloud sword had broken. It was because the broken part of the sword had just been roasted by Qin Feng's fire of destruction. Zhang Duanya was truly dumbfounded. He only regained his senses after being stunned for a while. As soon as he regained his senses, Zhang Duanya bared his fangs and brandished his claws at Qin Feng. He yelled coldly, "Stinking brat, it's you, isn't it? You're the one who broke the flying cloud sword. Hey, hurry and let go of my boyfriend. Don't you have any shame? You took out a lousy sword and broke it, and you still have the nerve to frame my boyfriend." Dongfang Qingxue was anxious and called Qin Feng her boyfriend. Dongfang Qingxue didn't know about Qin Feng's little actions earlier. She really thought that the flying cloud sword was broken by Zhang Duanya. In reality, Zhang Duanya still couldn't understand. How could the flying cloud sword break with just one swing? He didn't suspect Qin Feng. Instead, he purposely put the blame on Qin Feng because Zhang Duanya couldn't take the blame. Qin Feng's body shook lightly, and he shook off Zhang Duanya's hand. Zhang Duanya was stunned for a moment. Only now did he realize that this unremarkable scar-faced man in front of him was actually an expert. Don't be unreasonable here. You want to trick me with a lousy sword? Do you think I'm scared? Qin Feng's expression became cold, and a powerful aura exploded from his body. Zhang Duanya didn't dare to go near Qin Feng, but he still said, "This is one of Wu Dang's 6 great spiritual swords, the flying cloud sword. How could a high-grade orange spiritual sword suddenly break? You must have broken it when you touched it just now." Zhang Duanya completely shed all pretense of cordiality. Dongfang Qingxue was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Qin Feng had a calm and composed expression. "You already said that this is a high-grade orange spiritual sword. So how could it break with just a touch from me? I think this is just a replica. Are you trying to trick me? I'll call the people from the Starlight sect to get justice for me." Qin Feng acted like he was going to call for help. This scared Zhang Duanya so much that he immediately deflated. Don't call for help. Then what do you think we should do about this sword?" Qin Feng asked with a cold expression. Zhang Duanya was so sullen that tears almost flowed out. He couldn't understand what was going on no matter how much he thought about it. However, Zhang Duanya knew that this had nothing to do with Qin Feng. He only touched the flying cloud sword, so how could it break? This I won't blame you. However, you have to help me keep this a secret. Don't tell anyone about this. Zhang Duanya was still afraid that the Starlight sect would come. If that happened, they would treat him as a troublemaker and directly disqualify him from the Martial Circle Convention. Zhang Duanya had already thought it through. This flying cloud sword was given to him for safekeeping by the sect leader of the Wudong sect. At least for this period of time, the Wudong sect wouldn't know that the flying cloud sword was broken. After the Martial Circle Convention ended, Zhang Duanya was prepared to go to the smithy to find a master to see if he could reattach this broken sword. "TSK, after all this time, you only got a broken sword to show off. So embarrassing. Darling, let's go." Qin Feng held back his laughter and rolled his eyes at Zhang Duanya. Then, he hugged Dongfang Qingxue and swaggered back to the display rack. Zhang Duanya could only watch as the two left intimately. He was really depressed to death. He originally wanted to woo Dongfang Qingxue, but in the end, he lost 6 chi-strengthening pills and a broken flying cloud sword. In the end, he didn't even get to touch Dongfang Qingxue's little hand. That Wudong sect man is so low. I've never seen such a trashy man. Dongfang Qingxue was still cursing Zhang Duanya. Chapter 1026. Dongfang Qingxue was stunned. She didn't even notice that Qin Feng was hugging her waist. After staring at Qin Feng for a long time, Dongfang Qingxue suddenly came to her senses. "So it was you. You're so cool. Piss off that Wu-Tang sect idiot." Dongfang Qing had long disliked Zhang Duanye's behavior. After knowing the truth, she was so excited that she hugged Qin Feng's neck and jumped. Everyone looked at Dongfang Qing. They all sighed in their hearts when they saw that an ugly man like Qin Feng could flirt with a beauty like Dongfang Qing. Qing jump higher. Qin Feng stared at Dongfang Qing's chest like a pig and muttered. Dongfang Qing jumped halfway and abruptly stopped. She let out a cry of surprise and pushed Qin Feng away. A rosy blush flashed across her thousand-year iceberg handsome face. She was as beautiful and moving as the setting sun. Pervert, go to hell! Dongfang Qing punched Qin Feng's chest, then turned around and ran to sect leader Qin Yuan. Zhang Biao shook his head when he saw this. He realized sister-in-law Qing had taken a liking to that scar-faced man. He was so angry that he clenched his fists and glared at Qin Feng. If it wasn't for the fact that the people from Starlight Sect forbade fighting, Zhang Biao would have rushed up and beat Qin Feng up. Buzz! Qin Feng didn't find the Saint Soul Stone, after staying in the treasure convention for a long time. However, at this moment, the emerald spirit ring on his finger vibrated. It was a sign that it had sensed a treasure. Qin Feng hurriedly followed the direction of the emerald spirit ring, and arrived at the bottom of the display shelves. The order and position of the treasures on these two display racks were quite particular. The higher up and closer to the center, the rarer the treasures. As for where Qin Feng was standing, the treasures basically didn't attract much attention. Qin Feng didn't care about this. Instead, he squatted on the ground and carefully looked at the display items at the bottom. The items on this level were indeed of low quality. They were all second-grade elixirs. There were also some white-grade weapons that couldn't even reach the spiritual grade. There were also some antique jades and medicinal herbs like thousand-year-old ginseng used for alchemy. These were all things that people didn't really care about. Qin Feng searched for a long time. The emerald spirit ring could only lock onto such a small area. It was more difficult to lock onto the items because there were hundreds of treasures on this level. This stone is a little special. After searching for more than 10 minutes, Qin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. An extremely inconspicuous broken stone fell into his sight. The stone was completely black, as if it was going to swallow all light. It was completely inconspicuous among the items, and Qin Feng had overlooked it many times. However, the outer layer of the shelf was protected by glass, so Qin Feng could only look through the glass. He had no way of holding the stone in his hand. In this way, Qin Feng couldn't determine whether the treasure caused by the emerald spirit ring was this pitch-black stone or not. Everyone, the exhibition time is over. Now it's time for the auction. These exhibition items are the treasures brought by the major sects in the outer martial arts world. The representatives of the sects have reached an agreement with the Stars sect. They are willing to auction these items in public. If anyone has something you want to auction, please come to the Stars sect and sign an auction agreement with me. Ling Daozi's voice rang out, and a look of eagerness appeared on the faces of everyone in the hall. The most important part of tonight's auction had finally arrived. Everyone had been waiting all night for this moment. At this moment, 4 groups of people walked into the Sichuan restaurant. The martial artists in the hall turned their heads to look. When they saw the newcomers, they immediately cried out in surprise. Qin Feng also looked towards the entrance curiously. The 4 groups of people were obviously from the 4 sections. They were all dressed in the same way, and they emitted a cold and arrogant aura. They looked at everyone with cold eyes, as if the martial artists in the hall were not worth mentioning in their eyes. Soon, Qin Feng saw Su Ruoro and Hua Xianyu among the people who came. When Pikachu saw Su Ruoro, he ran around and shouted excitedly in the system. Qin Feng's calm heart was instantly stirred up by a storm. He wanted to rush over and carry Su Ruoro away. But Qin Feng calmed down in the end, at least in the current situation and Qin Feng's situation. He couldn't act blindly without thinking. Who are these people? The Treasure Inspection Convention is already at the last segment. They are so arrogant. They are going to be chased out by the Starlight sect in a while. The crowd was already in an uproar, and there were all kinds of discussions. Shut up if you don't want to die. You don't even know them? They are 4 of the 5 hidden hegemons. They are the Serenity sect, Snow Mountain sect, Immortal Cloud Sect, and Ice Lake Mountain. Including the Starlight Sect, that makes 5 sects. When Qin Feng heard the discussion, a glint flashed across his eyes. So these were the other 4 sects of the 5 hidden hegemons. Qin Feng moved his gaze away from Su Ruoro and carefully sized up the disciples of the other 3 sections. The disciples who came were basically young disciples under the age of 30, but they had a strong inner qi. They were all Stage 8 inner qi experts, and there were even a few who had stepped into the ranks of Stage 9 inner qi. Qin Feng slightly raised his eyebrows. His gaze was fixed on the young man behind the Snow Mountain Sect elder. The man was dressed in a white robe. His sideburns reached his chest, and he had a pair of sword-like eyebrows. He stood there like a cold and unfathomable swordsman. Qin Feng knew this man. Wasn't he Wen Yiming, whom he met during the exploration of the Ghost Mountain ancient martial arts ruins in the capital? Qin Feng even gave him the azure-tipped sword. When he explored the Ghost Mountain, Wen Yiming was a Stage 8 inner qi expert. After not seeing him for a few months, Qin Feng discovered that Brother Wen had broken through to the early stage of Stage 9 inner qi, reaching the same realm as him. So Wen Yiming is a disciple of the Snow Mountain Sect, one of the 5 hidden hegemons. It seems that the hidden hegemons are indeed filled with experts. Qin Feng was somewhat excited to see Wen Yiming here, but he didn't go up to greet him. After all, he was now using the identity of Zheng Shuai. While the crowd was discussing, the elders of the 4 sects led their disciples over to the Starlight Sect. They acted as if they couldn't hear the discussion. Hehe. Alliance leader Ling Daozi, we are late. Please forgive us. An elder of the Snow Mountain Sect spoke first. The elders and disciples of the other sects all nodded at Ling Daozi. Ling Daozi didn't put on much airs at this moment. He chuckled and said, Elder Wen is too serious. Everyone came at the right time. The auction has just begun. Ling Daozi bowed slightly to the elder of the Snow Mountain Sect and swept his gaze over the other elders. Elder Wen of the Snow Mountain Sect was nicknamed White Hair One. He was only in his 40s, but he already had a head full of white hair. Rumor had it that Elder Wen's hair had turned white when he was 30 years old. At that time, he wholeheartedly comprehended the way of the sword and achieved great success in the way of the sword overnight. However, his black hair also turned white overnight. Elder Wen raised his hand and said, Then Alliance leader Ling Daozi, please continue to host the meeting. Ling Daozi nodded. He walked from the crowd to the display racks and pressed a red button on the display rack. The glass surrounding the racks slowly retracted. The thousands of treasures on the 2 display racks were displayed in front of everyone's eyes. They were within reach and immediately caused a wave of exclamations. There were so many treasures in front of them, but no one dared to act recklessly. Everyone only cried out a few times to vent their emotions. After all, the 5 hidden hegemons were here. Anyone who dared to snatch the treasures would be beheaded in the next second. Ling Daozi waited for everyone's cries to gradually die down before he said, All right, I believe everyone can't wait any longer. Then let the auction begin. Let's start with the auction of the lowest item. Ling Daozi walked to one of the display racks. Everyone's gaze fell on the lowest item. The quality of the treasures on this floor was relatively low. Basically, no one present would be interested in them. Although there were a lot of treasures on the display shelves, the auction speed was very fast. In less than 10 minutes, the auction of the items at the bottom of the first display shelf had ended. Only the treasures were sold, and no one bid for the other items. Ling Daozi went to the second display rack and began to auction the treasure on the lowest item. Qin Feng stood there. The strange jet black rock that he had his eyes on was also on the display rack on this level. This is a grade 2 blood qi pill. Does anyone want to bid for it? Ling Daozi inquired about the items one by one. The blood qi pill was sold in the St. Medic Hall in every martial artist town. Moreover, the price of the blood qi pill was not much lower than the St. Medic Halls, so no one wanted to bid for it. Ling Daozi took out the blood qi pill and returned it to its owner. Then he moved on to the next item. Along the way, he finally reached the strange rock that Qin Feng had his eyes on. Ling Daozi glanced at the big jet black rock and a trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. He skipped over the rock and moved on to the next item. This is a longsword forged with black iron as the main material. It contains a small amount of frost iron. It can be considered a semi-spiritual weapon. The starting price is 500,000. Does anyone want to bid for it? Ling Daozi pointed at a black longsword. The surrounding martial artists shook their heads. Everyone wanted a spiritual weapon to use as a weapon. This kind of weapon could be bought directly from a blacksmith shop. Wait, why isn't that rock being auctioned? Qin Feng suddenly asked without waiting for anyone to speak. Everyone's gaze fell on Qin Feng. He could be considered a celebrity tonight. First, he gave away free qi strengthening pills in public. Then he flirted with a great beauty like Dongfang Qing Shui. Many people in the crowd recognized Qin Feng. Then a wave of sighs broke out. Judging from Qin Feng's attitude when he gave away the grade 4 qi strengthening pills for free, he was a very powerful and reclusive expert in everyone's hearts. Who would have thought that Qin Feng would be interested in a lousy rock? This action was truly beyond everyone's expectations. Ling Daozi and the two elders behind him were stunned. The three of them had been watching Qin Feng all night. They were waiting to make their move after the auction. Ling Daozi didn't expect Qin Feng to suddenly be interested in that lousy rock. Could it be that there was something mysterious about this rock? Chapter 1027. Ling Daozi couldn't find anything special about this stone. After studying it for a while, he pretended not to know Qin Feng and said indifferently, "Are you sure you want to bid for this broken stone?" "That's right. I've always liked to collect rocks. It's a quirk of mine." Qin Feng casually made up a cover to avoid everyone's suspicion. "The starting price of this stone is 10,000 yuan. You can raise the price now," Ling Daozi said. Before Qin Feng could speak, a young warrior suddenly ran out of the crowd. He was a disciple of the Sky Mountain sect based on his attire. "Alliance Master Ling Daozi, young hero. I'm the one who placed this stone here for auction. Previously, young hero gave me a qi strengthening pill for free. Since young hero has taken a liking to this lousy stone, how can I take your money? I'll give it to young hero for free." Ling Daozi was stunned. He looked at Qin Feng and waited for his opinion. Qin Feng said with a smile, "Then I won't be unreasonable. May I know your name? You can find me when you have time in the future." The man was overjoyed and said excitedly, "Young hero, I'm Qin Fan, a disciple of the Sky Mountain sect." Qin Feng nodded, but he didn't leave his name, because it was useless to leave his identity as Zheng Shui. The reason why Qin Feng asked for Qin Fan's name was not to be polite. This stone was brought by Qin Fan. Qin Feng planned to have a chat with Qin Fan after the treasure inspection convention to find out how he obtained this stone. Qin Fan had already given the stone to Qin Feng with a smile. Qin Feng chatted with Qin Fan for a while, and then took the stone to a corner where there was no one. The auction was still going on, and the atmosphere was getting more and more heated. This was because the items auctioned later on were rarer and rarer treasures. The venue was filled with screams and more people were bidding. Their minds were on the treasures on the two shelves, and no one paid attention to Qin Feng in the corner. As Qin Feng sat on the chair, he had already used his mind to sense the stone. The originally pitch black and ordinary stone unexpectedly emitted waves of spiritual energy. Moreover, the emerald spirit ring on Qin Feng's finger also began to vibrate. Obviously, this stone was the treasure that the emerald spirit ring had identified. "Little pig, this stone seems a little strange. Is it a Saint Soul stone?" Qin Feng held the stone and studied it for a while, but he couldn't figure it out. "Master, the Saint Soul stone needs blood to be activated. Before it's activated, it's just like a normal stone," Little Pig said. Qin Feng's eyes lit up, and he immediately took out the bloodthirst blade and made a cut on his index finger. Blood flowed and dripped onto the jet black stone. This ordinary stone suddenly changed. The surface of the stone seemed to breathe, and it instantly absorbed all of Qin Feng's blood. In the blink of an eye, the surface of the stone returned to its original state, as if it had never been stained with blood. Buzz! A strange energy wave spread out from the stone. causing the emerald spirit ring to shake violently. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the jet black stone began to shed its skin. The black outer layer completely fell off, and the inside shone with a golden light, as if it was a lump of gold. Saint Soul's stone, after dripping a drop of blood into it, it could merge with the Blood Kaiser's consciousness. It was a great material for crafting high-grade divine weapons. After the jet black stone completely transformed into a golden stone, the emerald spirit ring identified the nature of the stone. It turned out to be a Saint Soul stone. Qinfen was extremely excited. He had opened the limited edition interface of the system a few months ago. In order to craft the cosmic flying sword, he had collected materials for half a year. Now that he had collected all the materials, Qinfen couldn't wait to craft the cosmic flying sword. Master, you don't have enough spirit stones now. I suggest you get more just in case. Crafting a spiritual weapon required spirit stones, especially an immortal weapon like the cosmic flying sword. It required a large amount of spirit stones as the energy source for crafting. Qinfen had collected a large amount of spirit stones in the Ghost Mountain ancient martial ruins. However, he had used up a lot of them when he stored the spiritual weapons in the Million Treasure Pavilion, so he didn't have much left. The next auction item is an orange-grade meteor hammer. The starting price is 20 million, and a white-grade spiritual sword. The auction was in full swing, and the treasures on the highest level of the display racks had already been auctioned off. There were many good items on this level. There were even orange-grade spiritual weapons. However, most of the spiritual weapons were rarely used weapons like the meteor hammer. Only the disciples of sects who specialized in this type of weapon would fight for them. Qinfen put away the Saint Soul's stone and returned to the side of the display racks. There were hundreds of spirit stones on the highest level. The lowest quality of these spirit stones was a medium-grade spirit stone. However, hundreds of spirit stones were auctioned off together. No individual spirit stones would be sold. This was a big deal. The value of hundreds of spirit stones was higher than a blue-grade spiritual weapon. The orange-grade meteor hammer had already been auctioned off. It was bought by the leader of the Meteor Gang at a high price. The Meteor Gang used the meteor hammer. The leader's weapon was an ordinary weapon that couldn't be shown in public. Now that he had obtained an orange-grade meteor hammer, he was so excited that he almost fainted. The next item is 100 medium-grade and high-grade spirit stones. These spirit stones have to be bought in one go. They won't be auctioned separately. The starting price is 100 million, and an orange-grade spiritual sword. As soon as Ling Daozi finished speaking, a wave of exclamations sounded from the crowd. The 100 spirit stones were enough to attract the crowd. Moreover, the price of the spirit stones was astonishing. 100 million, and an orange-grade spiritual sword was the starting price. This was the highest starting price of the auction tonight. However, even though the price was high, the 100 spirit stones were still quite popular. This was because, for cultivators, spirit stones were like the temptation of delicacies for ordinary people. These cultivators relied on the spirit energy in spirit stones to speed up their cultivation. Moreover, spirit stones were also used in array formations, refining weapons and concocting pills. After a short silence, someone in the crowd raised the price. It was Elder Nyo of the Flame Sect. 110 million and an orange-grade spiritual sword. Qinfen was slightly surprised. He didn't care about the Flame Sect at all. He didn't expect such a small sect to have so much money. Qinfen felt that he had underestimated the power of the outer martial world. 130 million and an orange-grade spiritual sword from the outer sect. As soon as Elder Nyo finished speaking, a new voice came from the crowd. The crowd looked over and sighed. It was a bald monk from the Shaolin Temple who was raising the price. 150 million and an orange-grade spiritual sword from the outer sect. The Ma sect also joined the bidding. It seemed that the temptation of 100 spirit stones was quite great. There was no fighting in the surroundings, but the smell of gunpowder filled the air. This auction was more brutal than a real fight. The faces of the elders who placed their bids were as dark as the bottom of a pot. In a short while the price of 100 spirit stones had been raised to 200 million. However, No one had added an orange equipment spirit sword as a bargaining chip. After all, money was just a worldly possession to these martial artists. However, treasures like spirit weapons were also very rare to them. Currently, the ones still bidding were 3 of the 5 Chinese sections. In front of them, the small sects that had previously spoken up had long since shut their mouths. Competing with the 5 Chinese sects in terms of funds and resources was definitely asking for trouble. 300 million and 2 orange-grade spiritual swords. Seeing that the Taoist nun from the Amei sect was about to win this auction, a cold voice came from the crowd. Everyone was startled and looked over. There was a group of people standing in the northwest corner of the hall. The martial artists around these people consciously gave them some space, as if they were afraid of them. Qin Fan also looked over. This group of people wore green robes, and each of them was arrogant and unruly. They were the people from Ice Lake Mountain, one of the 5 hegemons of the inner hidden sects. No one expected the female elder of Ice Lake Mountain to suddenly bid. This time, the elders of the Amei sect, Shaolin Temple, and Kunlun sect lost their confidence. In front of the inner hidden sects, the 5 sects of China did not dare to act rashly. Under the crowd's gaze, the female elder of Ice Lake Mountain walked to the display shelf. She was a woman of unknown age. Her green robes fluttered even though there was no wind. Her face was so beautiful that many people stared at her and admired her beauty. However, they only admired her beauty. No one dared to show a trace of vulgarity or disrespect. This was because most of the people present had heard of this elder of Ice Lake Mountain. Her name was Elder Qianhuan Tong. It was said that she was an old woman in her 50s. However, her fair and supple skin was more delicate than an 18-year-old girl's. Rumor had it that she was a stage 9 inner chi expert. When Elder Qianhuan Tong arrived, the crowd instantly felt pressured. An invisible aura enveloped the hall, making it hard for everyone to breathe. I bid 300 million and 2 orange-grade spiritual swords. If anyone still wants to compete with me, I'll keep you company until the end. Elder Qianhuan Tong looked around. Her voice was calm, but it was filled with irresistible majesty. The elders of Shaolin Temple, Amei sect, and Kunlun sect immediately gave in. The Amei nun who was about to win the auction lowered her head and did not dare to look at Elder Qianhuan Tong. She could only suppress the anger in her heart. The hall suddenly became quiet. Everyone understood that under the pressure of Ice Lake Mountain, no one dared to compete for the 100 spiritual stones. Moreover, Ice Lake Mountain's bid was absolutely high. Putting aside the 300 million, just the 2 orange-grade spiritual swords were enough to suppress everyone. After the audience fell silent for 5 seconds, Ling Daozi had already stepped forward and was about to announce the result of the 1,000 illusion child's bid for 100 spirit stones. However, at this moment a cold voice rang out. 400 million, plus 2 orange-grade spirit swords, swoosh. The originally quiet hall suddenly burst into an uproar. Seeing that Ice Lake Mountain had already won the auction, no one expected that a new competitor would suddenly appear at this time. Everyone looked over at the source of the voice. They really wanted to see which sect's disciple was so reckless and dared to compete with Elder Qianhuan Tong. Even if he won the auction now, could he really bring the 100 spiritual stones out of Devil City? Chapter 1028. It's that young hero? It's over, it's over. This young hero is in big trouble today. Is he really a new disciple of the Azure Moon Shrine? I don't believe it. Not long ago, he gave away a grade 4 chi strengthening pill for free. Then he flirted with the goddess. Now he's challenging Elder Qianhuan Tong in public. He's too domineering. The crowd was filled with murderous discussions. The person who raised the bid was Qin Feng, and it shocked everyone. The people of Ice Lake Mountain were already looking at Qin Feng. The disciple's eyes were filled with murderous intent. 1,000 illusion child's eyes were wide open, and he gritted his teeth as he glared at Qin Feng. It was as if he was going to kill Qin Feng in the next second. Qin Feng's expression did not change as he stood among the crowd. He had observed that the most powerful person here was only at the peak of stage 9 inner chi. Although Qin Feng was not confident that he could defeat his opponent, He had no problem escaping. Others might be afraid of Elder Qian Huantong, but Qin Feng was not afraid of her. Besides, Qin Feng did not want to go against Ice Lake Mountain on purpose. He had his eyes on the 100 spirit stones, and was about to use them to forge the galaxy-flying sword. After a while, the crowd fell into a dead silence. Everyone held their breath, and looked at Qin Feng and Elder Qian Huantong. They were afraid that the old woman would suddenly attack them. Dongfang Qing Shui's face turned pale with fright. The sect leader of Qing Yuan sect had a bitter expression on his face. Qin Feng had brought the Azure Moon Shrine into the limelight, and now, he had dragged the Azure Moon Shrine into the water with him. He had attracted such a powerful enemy. The sect leader of Qing Yuan sect did not know what to say. Haha. Interesting, very interesting. It's been a long time since Ice Lake Mountain has met a rival in the auction. I wonder which sect you are from. You want to compete with me? After a long silence, Elder Qian Huantong suddenly laughed. She only took one step forward, but she appeared in front of Qin Feng in the blink of an eye. Her miraculous move drew gasps from the crowd. Qin Feng saw it clearly, but he was impressed by the old woman's speed. Even though he was only 1 meter away from Elder Qian Huantong, Qin Feng was still calm and collected. There's no rule that participants have to report their name and sect information, right? If you want to raise the bid, just say it. If you don't dare to come, just withdraw. Why are you being so wishy-washy? Qin Feng opened his mouth leisurely, but everyone was stupefied. The Qing Yuan sect leader, the 2 female disciples, and Chen Hai were so scared that they wanted to run away. This Qin Feng was too ruthless. He didn't give Ice Lake Mountain any face. On the other hand, Dongfang Qing Shui was so anxious that she gnashed her teeth. She cursed Qin Feng to death in her heart. This bastard just loves to act pretentious, and doesn't care about the situation at all. Almost all the sects in the outer martial arts world had gathered in the hall. Everyone had different expressions on their faces. Tonight, they had truly witnessed what it meant to be awesome. The disciples of Ice Lake Mountain all came behind Elder Qian Huantong. Their bodies exploded with a strong aura. As long as Elder Qian Huantong gave the order, the disciples would kill Qin Feng in the next second. The Elder Qian family was the sect. How long had it been since someone dared to talk back to her? Yun Realm Qiantian sect, Chen said after he she, Qing, Chen, Yun, 500 million. Tingyong, ai with Feng, I Tian Ling Feng, I 500 million plus 3 orange-grade spiritual weapons. A moment later, the 1,000 illusion child squeezed out a few words from between his teeth. The Ice Lake sect disciples' faces were cold. Originally, the price of 100 spiritual stones was 300 million and 2 spiritual swords. But now the price had almost doubled. Qin Feng sighed inwardly. The inner hidden sects were indeed rich in resources. 3 orange-grade spiritual swords were not a small matter. And they also had 500 million. It seemed like they were just playing around. Qin Feng now had Suqin Pharmaceuticals and Royal Group, as well as the Holy Medic Hall, the Divine Armament Hall, and the Qin family in the provincial capital as his backers. Qin Feng didn't fear money at all, and he had the hedonist sovereign system. However, Elder Qian Huantong was obviously against Qin Feng. If this continued, neither side would benefit. 600 million and 3 orange-grade spiritual equipment. Qin Feng was prepared to raise the bid a few more times. After all, he was in urgent need of large amounts of spiritual stones. Everyone was shocked by Qin Feng's extravagance. They were all discussing Qin Feng's identity. What kind of sect disciple could have the power to challenge Ice Lake sect? 1,000 illusion child's face became colder and colder, and his eyes became bloodshot. This woman had delicate skin and looked like an 18-year-old girl. But Qin Feng wasn't fooled by her appearance. This old woman was a seductress who had lived for more than 50 years. She was a shrewd woman. She had lived for a long time. Brat, you really don't know what's good for you. Since that's the case, Ice Lake sect will play with you to the end. I want to see what you can do. Elder Qian Huantong was completely enraged by Qin Feng. He roared, 1 billion and 5 orange-grade spiritual equipment. Whoosh! This price was too shocking. The entire hall was in an uproar. 1,005 orange-grade spiritual equipment? This price was more than enough to buy 150 high-grade spirit stones. Everyone understood that the Ice Lake Mountain Elder did not care about the bidding price at all. She just wanted to vent her anger. Qin Feng was also shocked. He didn't expect this old woman to be so easily angered. She suddenly became popular. Although Qin Feng could afford this price, he was more rational. He knew that this price was a great loss for him, so he wouldn't continue bidding. He had made up his mind. At most, he would let Ice Lake Mountain buy the spirit stones first, and then he would find a chance to snatch them from the Ice Lake Mountain. Tsk. Ice Lake Sect is indeed one of the hidden 5 hegemons. My horizons have been broadened today. Amazing, truly amazing. Qin Feng gave Elder Qian Huantong a thumbs up. This scene confused everyone. They didn't know what Qin Feng meant. Humph. Don't talk so much nonsense. Aren't you very arrogant? Increase the price if you can. No matter how much you increase it, I'll play with you to the end. Qin Feng didn't believe Qian Huanchild's words. This woman was obviously a sinister and vile person. Just as Qin Feng had guessed, Qian Huanchild had already calculated in her heart. She deliberately raised the price so high. As long as Qin Feng raised the price again, Qian Huanchild would immediately withdraw from the auction. She wanted Qin Feng to pay a hefty price. Then, after the treasure appraisal conference, she would kill Qin Feng and rob him. For Ice Lake Mountain, this was something they often played around with. Chapter 1029. As soon as Qin Feng's words fell, everyone was stunned. The disciples of Ice Lake Mountain gaped at Qin Feng's words. Elder Qian Huantong's face turned green. She never thought that Qin Feng would back down. This brat did not play by the rules. What did you say? You're not bidding anymore? Elder Qian Huantong regained her composure after a long while. Qin Feng smiled and said, Yeah, as the great elder of Ice Lake Mountain, you're determined to win this auction. Why should I continue bidding with you? Why don't I do you a favor and take these 100 spirit stones? You've taken advantage of me. If I need your Ice Lake Mountain's land after this, don't say no. Qin Feng's bright smile made Elder Qian Huantong's blood boil. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. How can you give up the auction? Hurry up and increase the price. How dare you argue with Ice Lake Mountain with such little capability? You're a disgrace. Using 1 billion yuan and 5 orange-grade spiritual weapons to purchase 100 spiritual stones was a losing deal. Elder Qian Huantong wanted to cheat Qin Feng, but she had dug a big hole and jumped into it herself. She was now using all kinds of methods to provoke Qin Feng. If Qin Feng increased the price by 1 cent, Elder Qian Huantong would immediately withdraw from the auction. The crowd sighed in amazement. Everyone understood that Qin Feng was toying with the Grand Elder of Ice Lake Mountain. He even dared to tease Ice Lake Mountain, one of the hidden 5 hegemons. Everyone was shocked speechless by Qin Feng's guts. Don't worry. I won't increase the price. I'm a man of my word. Since I've agreed to give Ice Lake Mountain face, I won't compete with you for the treasure. You should buy it yourself. Qin Feng looked at Elder Qian Huantong with a smile. She was so angry that her nose was crooked. Elder Qian Huantong could tell that she had been cheated by this young brat. Ice Lake Mountain had been in the martial arts world for hundreds of years, and this was the first time she had encountered such a humiliating situation. Elder Qian Huantong released a powerful gust of air, as if she was going to attack Qin Feng at any time. Cough cough. Elder Qian Huan, since this brother has withdrawn from the bidding, the 100 spiritual stones belong to Ice Lake Mountain. Elder Qian Huan, please go through the relevant procedures with the disciples of Star Sect. Ling Daozi had already sensed the murderous aura of the Thousand Illusion Child. He could not allow Bing Hushan to act recklessly. This treasure inspection convention was managed by the Starlight Sect. If something really happened, how could the Starlight Sect maintain their reputation in the martial arts world? Moreover, Ling Daozi knew Qin Fen's identity. He still wanted to personally capture Qin Fen after the treasure convention was over. The atmosphere in the hall instantly fell to the bottom, and the surrounding air began to freeze. The disciples of Ice Lake Mountain were furious. Qian Huantong clenched her teeth so hard that they almost broke. But in the end, she released her inner qi and glared at Qin Feng. Then, she turned around and followed the disciples of Starlight Sect to go through the procedures. Who? The moment Thousand Illusion Child left, everyone was panting. Everyone was almost suffocated by the aura released by the people from Ice Lake Mountain. Qin Feng did not care about it at all. In fact, he felt a little pleased. Isn't he just one of the 5 hidden hegemons? What's so great about him? The auction continued, but none of the treasures caught Qin Feng's attention. He went to a corner and rested. Once the treasure inspection convention was over, he would secretly follow the people from Ice Lake Mountain and get the 100 spirit stones back to him. Translator's notes 1. Damn it! That brat is too arrogant. How dare he go against Ice Lake Mountain? Is he tired of living? Elder Qian Huan, we can't let that brat go. Otherwise, Ice Lake Mountain will become a joke in the martial arts world. I've investigated just now. That bastard really hid his identity well. Nobody in this hall knows his identity. Some people said that he is a new disciple of the Azure Moon Shrine. That's bullshit. How dare a disciple of the Azure Moon Shrine offend Ice Lake Mountain? The disciples of Ice Lake Mountain gathered together and complained. Elder Qian Huantong handed over the orange-grade spiritual sword and walked out with the 100 spiritual stones. All of you shut up. Even now, Thousand Illusion Child was still suppressing a belly full of anger. He directly vented his anger on the group of disciples. The disciples trembled in fear and immediately quieted down. Elder Qian Huantong threw the bag of spiritual stones to one of the disciples and said coldly, "You too, keep an eye on that brat. When the treasure inspection convention is over, I want him to disappear from the face of the earth." The moment Elder Qian Huan Child gave the order, all the Ice Lake Mountain disciples were extremely excited. 2 of them immediately stared at Qin Feng, who was in the corner. They kept their eyes on Qin Feng, afraid that he would run away in the next second. Are you crazy? Why did you offend the people of Ice Lake Mountain? Dongfang Qingshui anxiously ran to Qin Feng and sat opposite him. Qin Feng quickly pushed Dongfang Qingshui away and said sternly, "Don't come near me. Get away from me." Dongfang Qingshui was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. She came to Qin Feng out of kindness, but this was his attitude? "Don't touch me. I can walk on my own. You've offended the people of Ice Lake Mountain, so you'll have to collect your own corpse." Dongfang Qingshui stomped her feet angrily and returned to the crowd of the Blue Moon Observatory. Qin Feng shook his head with a bitter smile. He must be in great danger tonight. That was why he purposely angered Dongfang Qingshui. Otherwise, he would bring a fatal disaster to this missy. The auction continued for another 2 hours. The thousands of treasures on the 2 display racks were sold. Ling Daozi stood impatiently in the crowd and shouted, "Heroes of the martial arts world, tonight's treasure inspection convention will end here. There are still 2 more treasure inspection conventions tomorrow and the night after. Those who didn't get any treasures tonight, don't be disappointed. I believe there will be treasures that you'll like tomorrow and the day after." After Ling Daozi finished his speech, the crowd started to disperse. Qin Feng quickly blended into the crowd and walked out. As soon as he moved, he realized that the people of Ice Lake Mountain were following him. Thousands of martial artists swarmed out. The scene was extremely chaotic. Qin Feng blended into the crowd and kept changing his position. However, the disciples of Ice Lake Mountain were all true experts. They followed Qin Feng all the way and were not shaken off. At this time, Qin Feng had reached the open space outside of Chuan Central Restaurant. The moonlight was cold, and the surroundings were gloomy. Qin Feng flew all the way and arrived at the abandoned buildings in Demon City after a few minutes. Bang! A muffled sound came from behind Qin Feng. A small pit appeared on the ground where he had just landed. Following that, an angry voice came from behind. "Stinking brat. How dare you trick your mother? You're courting death." As soon as the voice died away, a shadow appeared beside Qin Feng. It was the Thousand Illusion Child of Ice Lake Mountain. As for the Stage 8 Inner Chi disciples of Ice Lake Mountain, they were left far behind. Rumble! With no time to think, Qin Feng flipped his hand and shot out a ball of destructive fire. The flame soared and exploded in the gale. It instantly lit up the empty space behind Qinfen. Humph. Small tricks. Tonight, I'll show you the power of Ice Lake Mountain. The Thousand Illusion Child didn't dodge the destructive fire at all. Suddenly, a layer of turbulent inner chi barrier appeared around her. The fireball crashed around her, but it couldn't get close to her. At this time, the playful expression on the Thousand Illusion Child's face suddenly changed. He was shocked. This isn't the flame of a demon cultivator? Could it be the raging true chi fire? You've stepped into the true energy stage? The Thousand Illusion Child and Ling Daozi were both experts at the peak of stage 9 inner chi. Ling Daozi had underestimated Qinfen's destructive fire. They saw that Qinfen was young and obviously couldn't break through the true energy stage. They thought it was the flame released by a demon cultivator. However, the intensity of the flame was so hot that it almost burned the airflow around the Thousand Illusion Child. Raging true chi fire is nothing. Have a taste of this grandpa's flame. Qinfen clapped his hands and shot out another 3 fireballs. The Thousand Illusion Child's expression changed drastically. She didn't dare to underestimate the power of the destructive fire anymore. She didn't resist it head-on. Her slender figure moved quickly in the dark night. In Qinfen's eyes, she became a phantom. Her speed was so fast that it was astonishing. Elder Thousand Illusion. Stinking brat, quickly surrender. Kneel on the ground and kowtow to Ice Lake Mountain, and admit your mistake. Qinfen and the Thousand Illusion Child fought several rounds before the genius disciples of Ice Lake Mountain arrived. As soon as they arrived, they started to clamor. Qinfen didn't say anything and shot a fireball at them. Rumble. The air exploded continuously. The 6 disciples of Ice Lake Mountain sneered. Clearly, they thought that the destructive fire was an ordinary demonic cultivator's fire. 2 of the disciples leaped towards the destructive fire. This scene scared the Thousand Illusion Child so much that he quickly shouted, "Come back! That flame, Rumble!" Before the Thousand Illusion Child could finish his sentence, the destructive fire had already ignited the 2 disciples who rushed toward them. The flame rose to a height of 4 to 5 meters. The 2 disciples couldn't be seen clearly in the flame. Only their heart-wrenching screams could be heard. The remaining 4 disciples who didn't rush toward them were dumbfounded. 5 of them were stage 8 inner chi experts, and 1 was stage 9 inner chi expert. The 2 disciples who were burned to death were stage 8 inner chi experts. These experts were usually arrogant in the martial arts world, but now they were as weak as ants. Aha! You bastard! How dare you burn the disciples of Ice Lake Mountain to death? I'll skin you alive and pull out your tendons. The Thousand Illusion Child was enraged. He roared and pounced toward Qinfen. The Thousand Illusion Child was a stage 9 inner chi expert. His speed was so fast that Qinfen didn't even have time to react. He was hit in the chest and was sent flying into an abandoned villa. Rumble. As soon as Qinfen landed, explosions came from all around the villa. The Thousand Illusion Child's graceful and curvaceous figure landed on a roof. She waved her jade-like hands and created hundreds of afterimages like the thousand-armed Guanyin. It was a very strange scene. Bang! 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 Each afterimage seemed to contain a surge of inner chi, and they constantly bombarded the villa. The villa that Qinfen fell into was reduced to rubble in no time. Bricks, tiles, and rebars were piled up together. The scene was like an earthquake. P.S. I recommend a novel by my friend. Punishing Heaven and Proving Tao author. Quietly hiding introduction. I've seen people who traveled to another world and became kings because of their golden fingers. But have you seen the overlord of another world who traveled to another world and met a golden finger by chance? As long as you can't think of it, you can do it. As for the introduction, Chapter 1030. Rumble. Loud explosions rang out one after another. This was how the name Thousand Illusion Child came to be. Her thousand illusory palm was extremely powerful and fast. Even a stage 9 inner chi expert would have a headache trying to deal with it. The Ice Lake Mountain disciples stood at the side and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They still hadn't recovered from the shock of seeing two Stage 8 Inner Chi disciples being burned to death. Just now in the Sichuan restaurant, these Ice Lake Mountain disciples looked down on Qin Feng and thought that he was a rookie. Now they realized that Qin Feng was an opponent on the same level as Elder Qian Huan. Crackle! Just when everyone thought that Qin Feng had been slapped to death by Elder Qian Huan, a purple light suddenly streaked across the sky. The purple light was much faster than Elder Qian Huan's palm. In the blink of an eye, the purple light condensed into a net and covered Elder Qian Huan's head. Boom! The Ice Lake Mountain disciples cried out in alarm. Before they could warn Elder Qian Huan, they saw Elder Qian Huan being struck by the purple lightning. His porcelain white skin had turned into charcoal. Bang! Bang! The purple lightning fell, and was followed by a few more claps of thunder. 3 whip shadows descended from the sky. However, they weren't purple lightning. Instead, they were flickering with blue light. No one knew when Qin Feng had appeared above the Ice Lake Mountain disciples from the ruins. He held the blue spirit snake whip in his hand. The whip shadows turned into a screen and struck 2 of them. Be careful. Everyone be careful. The only Stage 9 Inner Chi expert among the disciples leaped and dodged Qin Feng's whip shadows. At the same time, he pulled the stunned disciple to the side. As soon as he landed, the disciple drew the long sword on his back and slashed it in the air. Sword light flashed. The Stage 9 Inner Chi disciple had already launched a fierce attack. The other Stage 8 Inner Chi disciple also started to assist. Their sword chi temporarily blocked Qin Feng's spirit snake whip. The battle was extremely intense. A black shadow flashed and appeared. The originally cold and arrogant Elder Qian Huan's green robe was now in tatters. More than half of her skin was exposed. She looked extremely alluring. I, Elder Qian Huan, have roamed the martial arts world for dozens of years. I've never been in such a sorry state like today. I swear I won't rest until I kill you today. The Thousand Illusion Child was completely forced into a corner by Qin Feng. He did not care about the exposed spring light on his body, and flew towards Qin Feng with his palm. The hundreds of illusory palms turned into 1,000 palms. The Thousand Illusion Palm had been unleashed to the extreme by the Thousand Illusion Child. The surging inner chi that covered the sky and covered the earth made Qin Feng feel a chill in his heart. The 2 Ice Lake Mountain disciples were scared silly. Rumble! Rumble! Thousands of palms rained down, and most of them hit the ground and abandoned houses. The buildings within a radius of several dozen meters collapsed with a loud rumble, and the ground shook violently. In this area, it was as if there was an earthquake. Qin Feng had no space to hide at all. He was hit by tens of palms and sunk into a large, deep pit. The Thousand Illusion Child had already landed and walked to the edge of the pit. The 2 disciples from Ice Lake Mountain didn't dare to follow. Elder Qian Huan's clothes weren't covering his body. They didn't dare to look at things they shouldn't be looking at. Standing at the edge of the pit, the Thousand Illusion Child looked down and saw Qin Feng lying in the center of the pit. He was vomiting blood. The destructive attack had caused great damage to Qin Feng. He didn't even have the strength to stand up. Humph! I thought you were strong. You're just a Stage 9 Inner Chi cultivator. How dare you go against me with this level of strength? I'll make you wish you were dead. The Thousand Illusion Child's eyes were spitting fire. Qin Feng was lying in the pit. He struggled to support his body and said, "Stop bragging. You've lost all your clothes after being beaten by me. How dare you embarrass yourself here? Your big rabbit is not bad, and its legs are long and slender. Why don't you come down and let me play with you?" Qin Feng couldn't stand an old Taoist nun acting arrogantly in front of him. Even if he couldn't defeat this old hag, he still wanted to anger her to death. Sure enough, the Thousand Illusion Child's long hair fluttered in the wind. His chest rose and fell, and Qin Feng felt refreshed. You want to play with me? Wait another 500 years. Qian Huantong raised his palm angrily, and quickly condensed a ball of inner chi in his palm. Qin Fen thought of a way to escape as he shouted, "It won't take 500 years. I'll say it now. I'll take your body by force within 50 days. Go to hell, you bastard." The Thousand Illusion Child was so angry that his eyeballs were about to explode. He suddenly slammed his palm into the pit. Qin Feng was about to release Ouyang Feng from the pit and teach him a lesson when a black shadow flashed by and dragged Qin Feng into the pit. The black shadow was so fast that it shocked Qin Feng. Even the Thousand Illusion Child couldn't match this speed. This was definitely an expert who surpassed the peak of Stage 9 inner chi. Rumble. Qin Feng was dragged dozens of meters away by the black shadow. Only then did Elder Thousand Illusion Child's palm strike land in the deep pit. Loud noises resounded continuously. The huge pit sank a few meters deep. Rocks tumbled down, and it looked like a big black hole. Who are you? How dare you obstruct Ice Lake Mountain's business? Show yourself. The Thousand Illusion Child landed on the roof of a house after the Thousand Illusion Child's palm landed. She was panicking because the black shadow that took Qin Feng away was too fast. Even the Thousand Illusion Child felt that she was no match for the black shadow. I want this brat. Leave now and I'll spare your lives. An aged voice came from the void. The quality of the voice was obviously altered. It sounded like two pieces of metal rubbing against each other, sending chills down one's spine. The Thousand Illusion Child's face was so cold that it was about to drip water. How could she let Qin Feng go? This brat had cheated her tonight and even verbally harassed her. She wanted nothing more than to hack Qin Feng into 1,000 pieces to vent her anger. Looking in the direction of the sound, Qianhuan Child did not see anyone. The two disciples of Ice Lake Mountain were already trembling with fear. They had thought that their strength was strong enough in the outer martial arts world. Only tonight did they realize how powerful and dangerous the outer martial arts world was. That brat ruined Ice Lake Mountain's business. I'll tear him into 1,000 pieces. You better hand him over, or you'll be going against Ice Lake Mountain. Although she was afraid, the Thousand Illusion Child couldn't just retreat. If she did, how would Ice Lake Mountain survive in the outer martial world? Rumble. The mysterious black shadow didn't say anything else. Suddenly there was a loud noise in the air. No one saw the existence of the shadowy figure, but the attack had already arrived. Thousand Illusion Child's expression changed dramatically, and she hurriedly sent out 1,000 illusion palm to block. But after sending out a dozen palm strikes, she was sent flying by a powerful aura. Pfft! The moment she landed on the ground, the Thousand Illusion Child spat out a mouthful of blood. The two disciples immediately rushed over. Elder Thousand Illusion, are you all right? Elder, why don't we retreat first? It won't be too late to deal with that brat after we get reinforcements. The two disciples were scared. They just wanted to run away. The Thousand Illusion Child was shocked. Although the black shadow only used one palm strike, the Thousand Illusion Child clearly felt the powerful aura. This was no longer the strength of an inner energy stage. It was definitely an expert who had stepped into the true energy stage. Let's go. With the sudden appearance of a true energy stage expert, the Thousand Illusion Child didn't dare to stay here no matter how sullen she was. The three of them quickly ran away. Behind them, the hoarse voice said, "If you want to live, leave the spirit stones behind." The three of them were stunned. The Thousand Illusion Child's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Of course, she knew what the black shadow meant by the spirit stones. It was the 100 spirit stones from the auction. The spirit stones were exchanged for 1 billion yuan and 5 orange-grade spiritual weapons. Just thinking about it made her feel sullen. Let's go. After a brief hesitation, the Thousand Illusion Child threw the spirit stones on the ground. Compared to the spirit stones, she valued her life more. If she lost her life, why would she keep the 100 spirit stones to accompany her in death? The wind howled incessantly in the dark night. The Thousand Illusion Child and the other two were extremely fast. In just a few breaths, they completely disappeared into the night. The surroundings fell silent, as if nothing had happened. A black-robed figure with his face covered landed on the ground. He casually threw Qin Feng, who was in his arms, to the side, then reached out to pick up the bag of spirit stones on the ground. Crackle! At this moment a bolt of purple lightning suddenly struck. It affected the power of heaven and earth, as if it was going to split a deep trench in the ground. The person in the black robe, who was about to touch the bag of spirit stones, suddenly retreated. In the blink of an eye, he had retreated dozens of meters away. Qin Feng suddenly moved, grabbed the bag of spirit stones, and threw it into the emerald ring. Then, he ran towards the depths of the demon city without a moment's delay. Bastard, you're courting death. The elder in the black robe was tricked by Qin Feng. He was so angry that he tore off the black hat on his head. It was a dignified old face. It was the vice leader of the star sect, Ling Tianhai. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The air was filled with the sound of wind breaking. Qin Feng put on the blue-grade white cloud boots and ran like the wind. He ran until his legs were about to break. The black shadow behind him multiplied from 1 to 4. The three of them were still shouting at Qin Feng. Qin Feng, do you think we don't recognize you? I advise you to surrender. The two elders and the vice leader of the star sect are here to catch you. You can't escape today even if you have wings. Ling Tianhai, Ling Yangzi, Aunt Ling Shui, and Ling Daozi were all here. Among the 4 of them, 3 were at the peak of stage 9 inner qi, and Ling Tianhai was an expert at the true qi stage. Qin Feng panicked. Even if he released Ouyang Feng and Shimen Shui, they might not be able to defeat these 4 people. After all, Qin Feng was seriously injured just now. Bang! 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 The sound of wind breaking became louder and louder. Ling Tianhai increased his speed. He was like an arrow that left the bow, so fast that it shocked Qin Feng. The white cloud boots had pushed Qin Feng's speed to the limit, but he still couldn't outrun Ling Tianhai. Just as he was about to be caught by Ling Tianhai, a gust of cold wind suddenly blew, and the aura of hundreds of spirits shrouded them. Master, I'll stop them. You run. Chapter 1031. Qin Feng was anxious. He was afraid that Xiaoli would appear at this time. Xiaoli, run. Don't worry about me. Qin Feng roared and continued to accelerate forward. Xiaoli's lonely and slender figure remained where she was, staring motionlessly at the rapidly approaching Ling Tianhai. Whoosh whoosh. The chilly wind whistled past his ears, and the originally strong winds of the night suddenly blew up into a hurricane. The chilly wind quickly condensed, and like a tornado, it blew towards Ling Tianhai. The surrounding area was filled with the spirits summoned by Xiaoli, and the yin qi in this area was dense, as if they had fallen into hell. You dare to chase after Master? Xiaoli will fight with you. Xiaoli roared. Her appearance had completely changed. Her waist-length hair hung on top of her head, her eyes were blood red, and her entire body emitted a chilling aura. The chilly wind seemed to have turned black, devouring the light in the surroundings. In just a few breaths' time, the chilly wind formed a whirlpool that spun like a black hole, destroying the surrounding abandoned villas. Everyone be careful. This woman's cultivation method is very strange. Ling Tianhai's footsteps became sluggish and slowed down. Xiaoli was a ghost cultivator, an extremely rare type of cultivator in the cultivation world. Even for Ling Tianhai, it was his first time fighting a ghost cultivator. Even though he was a true qi stage expert, he didn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Ling Tianhai and the other 3 stopped in front of the black hurricane. Seeing the hurricane approaching, the 4 of them were a little nervous. The yin qi around them became denser and denser. The thousands of silver soul qi enveloped the 4 of them. They felt the same as when Qin Feng encountered spirits for the first time. Xiaoli, run! Qin Feng realized that Xiaoli hadn't left halfway, so he quickly pulled her back. Master, leave quickly, don't worry about Xiaoli. It's enough to know Master, and be Master's mate in this life. Xiaoli was a stage 6 imp, which corresponded to the realm of orthodox stage 6 inner qi cultivators. However, ghost cultivators were rarer and more powerful than devil cultivators and evil cultivators. Therefore, when Xiaoli erupted, she could even suppress a stage 8 inner qi martial artist. With a single glance, Xiaoli could tell that Ling Tianhai and the other 3 were all top-notch experts. She knew that Qin Feng was doomed this time. Xiaoli was determined to sacrifice her life to buy more time for her master. This was the only way she could repay Qin Feng. What nonsense are you talking about? Come with me. Qin Feng pulled Xiaoli along and ran. Xiaoli began to struggle with tears in his eyes. Master, please let Xiaoli help you. Otherwise we'll both die. Qin Feng's voice was cold as he roared. You don't even listen to your master? If we die together, then we die together. I can't just watch you die alone, right? Qin Feng circulated his inner qi, stepped on the white cloud boots, and dragged Xiaoli along as he ran. Ever since Xiaoli started cultivating the Ghost Cultivator's secret manual after her death, her heart had been sealed in ice. It had been a long time since she felt her heart beating, but at this moment, her heart was racing and her body was boiling hot. Tears streamed down Xiaoli's cheeks like raindrops. Her heart was indescribably touched. Qin Feng's words of "if we die together," made Xiaoli firmly believe that she had followed the right person. Master, I'm more familiar with this area. I'll bring you there. Xiaoli quickly calmed down. His figure flashed, and his speed was the same as Qin Feng's white cloud boots. He was already leading the way. Xiaoli, you're running so fast. Qin Feng was speechless. His current strength was at the early stage of Stage 9 inner qi, and his speed could reach the middle stage of Stage 9 inner qi. With the addition of the blue-grade white cloud boots, Qin Feng could even reach the late stage of Stage 9 inner qi. However, Xiaoli, a mere Stage 6 ghost cultivator, was able to catch up to Qin Feng. Master, we ghost cultivators are special. We specialize in speed. Since our bodies are the weakest, we can only win in speed. Xiaoli explained to Qin Feng as she pulled Qin Feng and ran. Their current speed was like 6 sports cars at 200 kilometers per hour. Every time they made a left or right turn, it was like they were drifting. Vice Sect Leader Tian Hai, there are too many small twists and turns in this area. That woman is obviously very familiar with this area. We can't keep chasing like this. Ling Daozi and the others were gradually being tricked. Ling Daozi shouted with a cold expression. Ling Tianhai also realized this disadvantage. Under Xiaoli's lead, Qin Feng and Xiaoli always overtook the small paths. Every time Ling Tianhai was about to catch up to them, he would suddenly be shaken off by a sharp turn. This area must be connected. Let's split up, and we'll definitely be able to block those two. Ling Tianhai was not stupid, so he quickly came up with a plan. As soon as he finished speaking, the four of them split up and prepared to surround Qin Feng and Xiaoli. Master, it seems like they've been shaken off. Xiaoli's breathing was somewhat rapid after running in the dark for an unknown amount of time. Qin Feng had just been injured, so he had to eat medicinal pills to support his body. If they continued to run like this, even Qin Feng wouldn't be able to bear it. It seems like only that true Qi stage old man is behind them. The other three have been shaken off. Qin Feng glanced behind him. He could still vaguely see Ling Tianhai's figure, but he couldn't see Ling Daozi and the 2 star sect elders. Both of them heaved a sigh of relief. Just as they were about to slow down and rest, Qin Feng's expression changed drastically. He carried Xiaoli and leaped into the small path beside them. Bang! A loud sound exploded at the place where Xiaoli had just been standing. A huge and deep pit appeared on the ground. Following that, Ling Daozi's figure flickered over. He brandished a long sword and said, Qin Feng, let's not waste any more time. Let's launch a sneak attack, and I'll leave your corpses intact. Bang bang bang. Along the way sword lights flashed. As soon as Qin Feng and Xiaoli's feet left the ground, a small pit exploded on the ground. Xiaoli was so angry that her entire body turned gloomy and cold. That violent chilly wind blew again, and directly formed a hurricane behind the two of them. Ling Daozi's figure fell into the hurricane, and his vision became blurry. How could he continue to attack? Rumble! As soon as they ran out of the alley, Qin Feng hurriedly sent out a palm strike. 2 balls of destructive fire lit up the sky. The Star Sect elder leaped and dodged the fireball, and at the same time, sent a palm strike towards Xiaoli. Be careful! While Qin Feng shouted, he had already pushed Xiaoli away. That violent palm strike landed on Qin Feng's back. Qin Feng opened his mouth, and a large mouthful of blood fell onto the ground. Xiaoli was so frightened that she immediately cried. Master, are you alright? Qin Feng had just been injured by Thousand Illusion Child, and now, He was struck by a stage 9 inner chi expert's palm strike. His body couldn't take it anymore, and his eyelids drooped heavily. Qin Feng touched Xiaoli's face and wiped away her tears. He said, "Don't let them catch you. Hurry up and leave. Live well." As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feng fainted. A monstrous flame of anger ignited in Xiaoli's heart. However, she couldn't risk her life to fight Ling Tianhai and the others. She still had to save Qin Feng. Whoosh! Xiaoli turned her grief and anger into speed. She carried Qin Feng on her back and sped away. Dust flew up from the ground, as if a sports car had sped past. Sect leader Tianhai, Qin Feng has been knocked out. The woman is with me. Ling Yangzi shouted. The sound waves spread rapidly. In just a few breaths' time, Ling Daozi and the other two arrived. The four of them turned into four black shadows and chased after Xiaoli. Xiaoli's speed was so fast that it was dazzling. However, the four people she faced were too powerful. Ling Tianhai was slowly approaching Xiaoli. Seeing that she was about to be caught by Ling Tianhai, Xiaoli gritted her teeth and suddenly changed her path. After running for less than a minute, the surroundings became more and more desolate. It was as if she had entered a deep mountain area. "Master," Xiaoli tried her best, but I couldn't save Master. "Then let's die together." Whoosh! The air was filled with the sound of explosions. Xiaoli's beautiful figure turned into a flying arrow. The road under her feet suddenly became empty. Beneath her feet was a bottomless pitch-black cliff. Ling Tianhai, who was the first to catch up, suddenly braked and stopped at the edge of the cliff. He watched as two pieces of rock fell down. "Be careful, there's a cliff in front." Ling Tianhai hastily shouted to the three people who rushed after him. The two elders stopped in time. Half of Ling Daozi's body was hanging outside the cliff, but he was still pulled back to the shore by Ling Tianhai. Looking at the bottomless cliff, Ling Daozi's back was covered with a layer of cold sweat. If he fell down, he would definitely be smashed to pieces. Sect leader Tianhai, what should we do now? Ling Daozi asked after everyone stared at the bottom of the cliff in silence. Ling Tianhai's expression was somewhat cold. He was very unhappy that he couldn't kill Qin Feng with his own hands. If this brat died, then so be it. Why did he have to jump off the cliff with 100 spirit stones? What a waste of resources. They will definitely die if they fall from this cliff, unless they have wings. Since this brat is dead, we don't have to worry about the martial arts circle convention this time. Let's go back and help Ling Fei break through to the middle stage of stage 9 inner chi. That way, the martial arts circle master will belong to our Starlight sect again. The reason why Ling Tianhai and the two great elders of the Star sect left the mountain and rushed to Devil City was because they learned of Qin Feng's strength. There was an expert who was comparable to the peak of stage 9 inner chi in Devil City. Moreover, he was below the age of 35. This was a major event that prevented the Star sect from becoming the chancellor of the martial circle. Now that Qin Feng was dead, everyone's apprehension disappeared. This brat is really lucky. I originally wanted to capture him and personally skin him alive. Ling Daozi fiercely spat at the bottom of the cliff. A few days ago, Qin Feng had caused him to be battered and exhausted in front of all the martial artists outside. Ling Daozi hated Qin Feng even more. The four of them stood at the edge of the cliff for a while. After making sure that Qin Feng and the woman didn't come up, they transformed into four black shadows and disappeared into the night. "Xiaoli, where are we? Why do I feel like we're falling?" Qin Feng suddenly woke up from the rapid fall. Then he was stunned. Was he jumping off the cliff? "Ouying Feng, come out." Chapter 1032. Xiaoli heard Qin Feng shout, but she didn't understand what Qin Feng was shouting. She suddenly hugged Qin Feng tightly and even kissed him. Xiaoli thought that she and Qin Feng were going to die, and she wanted to give her first kiss to the person she loved before she died. "Woo-woo. Xiaoli, what are you doing?" Qin Feng jumped in shock and gently pushed Xiaoli away. Xiaoli didn't care and hugged Qin Feng again. This time, she even took the initiative to French kiss, but it was clearly a bit stiff. Qin Feng's feet landed on the ground, and he immediately pushed Xiaoli away. Let's not think about love now. I have to quickly forge the flying sword and kill my way back to take revenge. Time was of the essence, and Qin Feng didn't have time to waste. Once the treasure inspection fair ended in the next 2 days, the Martial Circle convention would follow. Qin Feng still had the Martial Circle Alliance master mission, so he had to forge the Starry Sky flying sword in these 2 days and strive to break through his realm. Xiaoli gradually woke up from her daze. She widened her eyes and looked at her surroundings in astonishment. This was the bottom of a cliff, and there were cliffs all around. There was also a waterfall flowing down. Below them was a grassy plain with many flowers and plants. It was simply a holy land for cultivation and living in seclusion. Master W didn't die? Xiaoli was stunned and suddenly changed her words. I know, could this be heaven? Master, we actually went to heaven after we died. Seeing Xiaoli jumping up and down in a silly manner, Qin Feng patted her head and smiled. Nonsense, we didn't die. This is the bottom of a cliff, and we are living well. Ouyang Feng greets Master. Ouyang Feng waited until Qin Feng and Xiaoli finished speaking before coming over to greet him. Xiaoli suddenly blocked in front of Qin Feng, and a murderous look immediately appeared on her face. Master, be careful, there are people at the bottom of this valley. Qin Feng was amused by Xiaoli. He reached out and hugged Xiaoli's snake demon and pulled her into his embrace. Don't be afraid, this is a friend of mine. He was the one who saved us. Xiaoli lay in Qin Feng's embrace. That warm embrace made Xiaoli unwilling to leave. This is Master's friend? Why is he here? Could it be that he lives in this valley? Xiaoli couldn't understand. Qin Feng smiled and didn't explain because he couldn't explain Ouyang Feng's background. Ouyang Feng, stand guard around me. I'm going to focus on refining my flying sword for the next 2 days. Don't let anyone disturb me. Qin Feng instructed Ouyang Feng. After thinking for a bit, he released Shimen Shui as well. When Xiaoli saw the white-clothed cold-looking youth suddenly appear at the bottom of the valley, she screamed in fright again. Even she, a ghost cultivator, was stunned by Qin Feng's miraculous methods. With Ouyang Feng and Shimen Shui protecting him, Qin Feng did not have to worry at all. He also looked down at the cliff. It was so deep that he could not see the bottom. He believed that Ling Tianhai and the others would not come down at all. They must have thought that he had fallen to his death. Qin Feng pulled Xiaoli around and finally found a place to sit at the foot of a mountain. Qin Feng said a few words to Xiaoli before he entered the Hedonist sovereign system. Master, Little Pig, and Pikachu leaped onto Qin Feng's shoulders. Qin Feng's escape from death scared the 2 pets. They kept rubbing Qin Feng's face with their little heads, tickling Qin Feng, and making him laugh out loud. Pikachu, how is Ruoro after she disappeared? Qin Feng thought of Su Ruoro when he saw Pikachu. Pikachu said a lot, but Qin Feng did not understand. In the end, it was Little Pig who translated. Master, Pikachu said that Mistress Su Ruoro has been staying in the Serenity sect to cultivate. However, that man called Ling Fei has been pestering Su Ruoro. After Master refines the flying sword, you must teach him a good lesson. Qin Feng had not liked Ling Fei for a long time. He gritted his teeth and prepared to kill all the elders and disciples of the Starlight sect after the flying sword was refined. After messing around with the 2 little guys for a while, Qin Feng entered the forging interface. This was a place specially for forging spiritual weapons. The purple thunder wild robe that Qin Feng wore was forged here. In front of him was a huge forging furnace. Qin Feng clapped his hands and dozens of materials for forging the Starry Sky flying sword entered the furnace. Black rock sand, purple crystal, Yuan meteor stone, heaven and earth vital stone. These were the materials that Qin Feng had collected over the past few months. Now, with the addition of the Saint Soul stone, he had gathered all the materials for the Starry Sky flying sword. Rumble. After all the materials entered the furnace, Qin Feng clapped his hands, and a ball of destructive fire rose a few meters high from the bottom of the furnace. It was as if it was going to swallow the entire forging path. The refining process was relatively slow. Qin Feng had to constantly control the intensity of the destructive fire. From time to time, He had to add some spirit stones to maintain sufficient spiritual energy during the refining process. The cauldron slowly rose into the air and rotated at a constant speed in the void. The destructive fire raged ceaselessly. The 100 or so spirit stones around Qin Feng were reduced piece by piece. Before long, he had refined more than 50 spirit stones. Although Qin Feng had been sitting motionlessly during the process of refining the flying sword, this was a task that tested his mental strength. He had only persisted for 6 hours, but Qin Feng was already drenched in sweat. His head was starting to buzz, and he felt like he would faint at any moment. Qin Feng gulped down all kinds of refreshing pills as if they were rice. The small mountain of spirit stones beside him also decreased rapidly. Another 6 hours passed. Qin Feng had refined from night to day. He felt that his body had reached its limit, and there were only about 20 spirit stones left beside him. Rumble. After an unknown amount of time, the furnace finally let out a loud noise that hadn't been heard for a long time. The noise was earth-shattering. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck the valley. Wei Yan's precipitous cliff shook violently, and a lot of rocks tumbled down. Master, be careful. Shaoli didn't sleep for the whole night. She kept an eye on Qin Feng's condition. In the middle of the night, when Qin Feng was sweating profusely, Shaoli would help him wipe his body. Now that he saw the huge change in the valley, Shaoli was so frightened that he hurriedly lay on Qin Feng's body to help him block the falling rocks. Rumble. The loud noises continued, and the rocks fell like rain. Qin Feng, who had been sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes shone brightly. He raised his hand, and a pink ray of light shot out from his palm. An exquisite short sword soared into the sky like a dragon emerging from the sea, bringing with it the power of heaven and earth. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The sound of the cosmic flying sword slicing the rocks came from above. The huge rocks on the cliff were extremely hard, but they were like soft tofu under the cosmic flying sword. Tap, tap, tap. Bits and pieces of debris fell and surrounded Qin Feng and Shaoli. The falling rocks were all sliced into fine sand by the cosmic flying sword. In a short while, the area around the two of them was reduced to a small sand dune. The shocking scene shocked Shaoli so much that she couldn't speak. Master, your sword is so powerful. Shaoli stared at Qin Feng with her mouth agape. Qin Feng raised his head proudly. His heart was filled with excitement. The cosmic flying sword was successfully refined. Ah, Shaoli, why am I naked? Qin Feng's proud mood lasted for a few seconds. Suddenly, he felt a chill run down his spine. He looked down and was shocked. Shaoli suddenly became shy. Her beautiful eyes inadvertently glanced at Qin Feng's thighs. And Master, last night, I saw you sweating all over, so I took off your clothes and helped you wipe. After all, Qin Feng hadn't done anything with Shaoli, so he felt a bit awkward. When he looked down and saw little Qin Feng soaring into the sky, Qin Feng felt even more awkward. Turn around. I'll put on my clothes, Qin Feng said. Shaoli blushed. She got up and brought the washed clothes over. Master, the clothes are already dry. Shaoli will help you put them on. Qin Feng wanted to refuse, but Shaoli had already started. This girl really didn't avoid it. She really helped Qin Feng put on his clothes. She even helped him put on his underwear. After putting on his clothes, Qin Feng didn't do anything. A hint of disappointment flashed in Shaoli's eyes. She thought Qin Feng would pounce on her. Master, congratulations. The flying sword is complete. Once the flying sword is out, who can compete with it? Ouyang Feng and Shimen Chui Shui sensed the change and rushed over. They raised their heads and looked at the pink figure flying back and forth in the sky. Their eyes flickered with envy. Swish! Qin Feng made a grabbing motion in the air. The cosmic flying sword instantly flew into Qin Feng's hand, as if it had a mind of its own. Only then did everyone see the appearance of the cosmic flying sword. It was a short sword that was half a meter long. Its entire body was emitting a strange pink glow. The blade was exquisite and beautiful. There were a few stars carved on it. There were also a few pink auspicious clouds on the hilt. The entire sword was filled with boundless spiritual energy. Wow! Master, what grade is this spiritual weapon? This is my first time seeing it. Why do I feel like this sword is alive? Shaoli stared at the cosmic flying sword for a while, and couldn't help but exclaim. Ouyang Feng and Shimen Shui Shui yearned for the cosmic flying sword. With the flying sword, Qin Feng could control the sword to fly and kill people. That was something that even true Qi experts would find difficult to do. This is a rare pink equipment. It's a grade higher than a purple equipment spiritual weapon. Qin Feng didn't hide it from Shaoli. After Shaoli jumped off the cliff, Qin Feng completely trusted this maid. Pink equipment spiritual weapon? Master is really amazing. Shaoli admired Qin Feng from the bottom of her heart. She had been wandering in the martial arts world for a period of time. She had seen martial artists using blue-grade spiritual equipment. Shaoli had never seen a purple-grade spiritual equipment before. Now she had seen a pink-grade flying sword. Qin Feng was extremely excited after he refined the flying sword. He grabbed Shaoli's slim waist and leaped into the air. Whoosh! Shaoli felt her feet stepping on something. Then her body fell backward due to inertia. The wind whistled past her ears. The scenery of the valley changed every second. Shaoli only regained her senses after a long time. She discovered that she was actually flying. Wow! Awesome! It's even more awesome than riding the flaming golden eagle. Qin Feng screamed in the valley. His voice echoed throughout the valley. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.